Hi, this is Manrissa Lee. You're listening to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Hello, Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap podcast, Quantum Leap After Show. I'm Albie, and as always with me is Hayden. Say hi, Hayden.
Or am I the decoy? I'm just letting you know I'm the decoy.
You do look like a box of bricks.
Hey, I've been going to the gym. Thank you for noticing.
And joining us this week is our very own Bruce McGill, the creator, owner, runner, the guy from Al's Place. It's Brian Greene. How you doing, Brian?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me on again.
Thanks for joining us. We ended season 1 with you, and we're starting season 2 with you, so that's very exciting.
That's why the show's still on.
We like Brian to be the bread in our shit sandwich.
I'll take it. I normally like to be the bread, but Brian can be the bread. Okay, Brian. Today we're talking about season 2, episode 1. This took too long.
It
takes
did.
place in 1978 in Russia. What are your first thoughts?
I liked it. I thought some of it was kind of predictable. It moved along okay. And it took a little bit to figure out why the rest of the team wasn't showing up, except in flashbacks. But the twist at the end was pretty interesting. So overall, I liked it. It was okay.
Okay, good. Hayden.
Well, I think it's important that the listeners know that I do make a distinction between liking something and knowing something's good. I did not like this episode, but I do know it was very good.
Interesting.
So that's my
I'd like to find
thoughts.
out more about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we're going to have an interesting show. We have 3 great interviews in this episode. I don't know if you know this, but there seems to be like a writer's strike and an actor's strike at the moment. So it's going to be very difficult and strange this season getting interviews because one of the things they can't do is promote any show that they're a part of. So like we can get them on and have them talk about recipes, possibly, I don't know, or, their childhood, maybe, but nothing to do about Quantum Leap. So at the time of this recording, the strikes are still in full force. So we do have some interviews that were recorded before the actors and writers strike. So we'll be playing those. And as soon as everything is over and everything's cleared, we'll be going full bore, full guns ahead, full speed. Back
Full
into
force.
interview, full force. That's a Power Rangers thing. Back into interview mode. But for right now, it's just going to be us and the fan community and people that don't have anything to do with the show talking about the show. But luckily, we have those interviews.
Quantum Leap adjacent.
There you go, adjacent. I like that. We do have the interviews that were recorded before the strike, so that we haven't played on the main show here. So we're going to do that, and that'll be fun. So we got a lot coming up in this show, but mostly we're going to be talking about this took too long. Why the exclamation point? Is that a thing?
I really think that everyone else was just really sick of the summer break. Or winter if you're in my part of the world.
What was really cool about this is, as you know, Matt Dale was in California around the time they were filming the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2, and he wasn't allowed on set because spoilers, I guess probably some I don't know. There's not many spoilers that would apply for this first episode, really, except for the it's been 3 years thing. I think that was the one shocking thing, but that was only 2 actors, I think, on the set at the time. But makes me wonder if they knew that the writer strike and actor strike was like possibly on the horizon. That's why they didn't take a break between filming season 1 and season 2 and went right into season 2. Do you guys heard anything about that or know anything about that?
Not really. I do think that, well, look, you would have to keep a good watch on the landscape to know what is likely going to be viable. And in fact, a theory behind the scenes that I have is maybe the reason that they do have so much of the episode without the project people and like only appearing in flashbacks, and also, as we know, shutting the project down, might actually be they were worried they might not be able to have much of the cast there, so it gives them a way to ride around not being able to do much at the project. Having said that, though, I know that so many people when they were watching season 1 really didn't like season 1 very much because of the feeling of disjointedness between the leap and what was going on at the project. So maybe this was also the producer's way of doing this and saying, all right, this is what you asked for, but and tried to do it in the most uncomfortable possible way that we could deal with. I was just really uncomfortable watching this episode. I know that's what they were intending. That's the thing. I know that that's what the feel of the episode was supposed to be. So that's why I know that it was good. But I just really didn't like how slow this episode was, and I didn't like how we weren't getting information. I really did miss the other cast members, and the flashbacks, that really did feel like they were just tacking it on for the sake of having something there from them. I don't think anything was really added from that, except maybe the feeling of what is it like if Addison at the time was going to get in there and never comes back. Do you think Sam knew? That was kind of, and Ernie Hudson can do no wrong. His delivery was fantastic. But the scenes with Ian and Jen and Ben, just doing this probability thing on Ziggy, I'm just like, did we really need to see that? I hope it has some sort of a payoff in the future, but yeah, and the leap itself, it just dragged on and on and on. It took about 20 minutes for anything to actually happen. And then, we got a lot of explosive stuff towards the end. So it was good, but I know that it was good in the sense that that's what they were trying to get across. But I just didn't like it myself, if that makes sense.
Very interesting. We have opposite views of this episode. Brian, where do you fall on that?
I think I'm in the middle. It did drag on a little bit at the beginning, where the Enoch, I guess that's his name, says that he was going to confess something that never really came to fruition, except in a joke at the end. So I thought the plot was going to go somewhere with that, but it really didn't. And the effects were good. It looked like they were created for the show instead of using stock footage. So I thought that was kind of cool. Deborah Pratt's intro at the beginning was nice to hear her voice there, and a little excerpt from the OG series thrown in the middle. So I sort of cheered for that. But after that, I did miss the cast members. The flashbacks were okay. I liked seeing Addison in the Fermi suit. But other than that, they really didn't serve a whole lot of purpose to tell us what had happened, until the end, of course, when I guess 2026, Ian comes in and tells him he's been gone for 3 years. So where has he been? That's interesting, and I'm curious to see where that goes. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Wow. I have a totally different opinion on this. It wasn't until the second time I watched the episode that I realized, wow, this is a whole Ben-centric episode. It's not split between, it is a little bit at the project, but it's when Ben was at the project, flashbacks. And I realized it was that one thing that people were complaining about, that there was too much other people back at headquarters and not enough of the leap. And it was mostly leap this time with just a few flashbacks. I really enjoyed this episode. It took me back to almost the television episode format of Lost. Even with the plane crash at the beginning and getting people out of the wreckage, I immediately thought Lost. And then it went into flashbacks for Ben, and that was, to me, was like a Lost structure. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the dynamic between Jen, Ian, and Ben, the three of them together, which we haven't really seen up to this point like this, and I really enjoyed that. I was a little disappointed when it was a flashback and we were seeing Addison in the Fermi suit, because when I had saw that in the season 2 preview, I thought, wow, now, Ben changed history and Addison's going to be the leaper and this is going to be crazy. So for the whole episode, I was expecting LT Greer, the commander, to actually be Addison, but leaped into this person. So I was seeing her character almost as Addison, and I was waiting for them to touch and see each other or something. but I was wrong. But I thought the whole episode was very exciting, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was fast paced, and I loved the casting. I loved the actors were great. The guy who played Ronnie, I think, was
fast
my favorite.
paced. Did you watch it on like 5 times speed?
No, but I did watch it on my new 135 inch, so maybe that was part of it. But I don't know. I loved the episode. I really did. Maybe it's because I've been starved for new Quantum Leap for a few months, but I thought it was written well, and I thought it was acted well, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. The other thing that was getting on my nerves was that it just kind of felt like there was this huge tension for one thing going on, and then nothing would come of it. And then you'd get tension for something else. Nothing would come of it again. Like with the big box that they were supposed to be transporting. I was expecting it to be a nuclear bomb or something like that, not a box of bricks.
Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
Yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I was expecting it to be something like that.
Yeah,
and
this
no, it was a box of bricks.
Well, this was before Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, so it was cool to hear those references kind of in that. But that's immediately what my mind went to. Yep, Ark of the Covenant. So, but instead of a box of sand, it was a box of bricks.
I do like the idea of them being sent as decoys, though. That I did find quite interesting, and the kind of the moral quandaries that came with that. I just felt that there was very little narrative payoff to everything going on in the first 20 minutes. And that's just how I felt. I just felt really uncomfortable watching this episode. I thought that we needed to have something else there, like as our comfort element, if that makes sense. So I know that a lot of this is intentional. We're supposed to feel uncomfortable because of the situation that Ben is in. So I do understand that. That doesn't mean I have to like it. I did like the parts with Ben saying, "Addison, are you here? I need some help," and it did get me thinking, well, is it possible that, they are watching, that there's other people or forces out there watching Ben? I think this is the first time we've gotten any confirmation that GTF Dubs is still out there, that it exists in this universe, because we got that in the saga cell with Deborah, the unknown force, to change history for the better. So it had some good stuff, I'm not going to lie, but yeah, just not my cup of tea.
Okay, interesting. Now I'm kind of sad because I love this episode. Brian.
I like some of the funny parts, where he says something like about being engaged, and then they inquire about that, and he's like, well, let's just not talk about that. I'm going to go fix the radio, and dodges it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. So that was pretty humorous. So the funny stuff was good.
I like him passing it off as a head injury.
Right. He quotes Addison from, I guess, Ben Interrupted, where putting one foot in front of the other. So how long, if it's been 3 years, it seems like it's been almost instantaneous for him, if he remembers that. That's, how would you remember a quote like that from 3 years ago that well? So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's an instantaneous leap for him, but everyone else somehow has jumped. And I know Hayden's got some theories on this that maybe we'll hear in a minute. But, it just kind of makes you wonder where they're going and what's happened. So that's intriguing.
I think it was absolutely instantaneous for Ben, because at the end of the last episode, do we see him leap into the plane or not? I forget.
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Maybe it was just the accelerator doing something in the project, and that was about it. And we didn't see who was coming out of it, if anyone.
And they kind of disappear.
Obviously, no one. Yeah.
But then we saw the preview for season 2, and we saw him in it. So I guess my brain connected it like he leaped there next, and there was no time in between. I don't think there was time in between for him.
Doesn't seem that way.
The funny thing is, I think there was time passed in between, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he already have his memory back at the end of the last season? I think he
A
did.
lot of it, but
Yeah.
not all of it. I think they
So
reset the stage, and now his memory's fully back.
Now, when he leaps in, he mentions specifically the whole team: Ian, Jen, Magic, anyone there.
Yeah, but I thought that he had his memory back, so it surprised me that he was getting like flashes of things that he had forgotten. It does make me think that maybe the leaping process is causing the Swiss cheesing to happen again. And that also made me think, well, 3 years have passed. He's probably done other leaps in between. And every time he does a leap, his memory has gotten more Swiss cheesed. And that's why he's lost a lot of his memory and is so shocked when he got a lot of it back. So I actually think he has been leaping and doing, other stuff without any help from the project, for that matter, as well. He's probably gone through this process of, Addison, are you here? Every single time he's done a leap, or worse, he might have even had to keep repeating this same leap over and over again, which is also a possibility. So I actually think he has been leaping more.
Unlike the original series, where we asked people that wrote the episodes back then, and they're like, I don't know, it was 30 years ago. When all these strikes clear up, we can talk to Martin and find out his thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I did, like you were saying, Brian, I did enjoy the comedic parts of it, where Ben has a different approach than Sam did. Sam always tried to not drop a pebble in the stream or step on a butterfly. He was very careful. Ben just acts like he's in a video game and he's on in his own timeline, and he'll just say what he thinks. And then people are always like, what? I don't get what? You're not from the future. And he's like, oh yeah, it must be my head. But yeah, I like that MacGyver. I would have liked if they went a little bit further with the MacGyver, and he was like, my uncle, he's in the Air Force, Stargate, while he's walking away or something. But I did enjoy that. The humor was funny. I love the acting style in this episode, probably due to the director. Hayden, we know who wrote it, Martin Jarrow. Who directed this episode?
I don't know.
Damn it. This is where you grab your pad and read what
John Terlesky.
John Terlesky. Okay. I thought he did a really good job. With the exception of maybe one shot, but that might have been an editing thing that I didn't enjoy. But I really liked how, and the series has done this in season 1 also at times, but where all the actors were talking all over each other. They had the lines, but they were like, it was more realistic. It wasn't like line, shot. It was very of the moment. And, they're all in this situation, and that's how people would be. They'd be talking all at the same time, trying to get their points out, because every minute is another minute. That's a life and death situation. They're behind enemy lines. In Russia, they got no way out. They're trying to figure it out. So they're all just talking at the same time. And I really enjoyed that part of the episode. So that being Ben's humor added into all that was great for me.
So something that I did notice, do you remember in our discussions in the last season, I said that there seemed to be this theme of like the government can't be trusted? Mm-hmm. Well, to me, it felt like that was a story thread that they hadn't actually finished, especially because if you remember, Magic essentially made the promise that they'd go back and save the senator's brother. But I actually think this episode wouldn't have worked if Ben did have help from the project, because there's a lot of military influence at the project from Addison and from Magic. And they would not have advised Ben to open the box. And that would have meant, I have to wonder what happened to the people once Ben leapt out. I assume that he's done his mission because he did leap, but did they get court-martialed? Did they get into a lot of trouble over what happened? Because they didn't really have any authorization to do any of the stuff that they did. Did he? I know that he saved a lot of lives by, blowing up the satellite dish. Satellite dish, is that the word?
Station.
Yeah, and
surface to air
by making it that they couldn't blow down that they couldn't shoot down the planes. Mm-hmm. But would any of those individual people's lives be any better? Something else that jumps out at me in both incarnations of Quantum Leap, the original series and this new version, why does GTF Dubs seem to have some kind of a stake in war? Wouldn't you think that, GTF Dubs, if it exists, wouldn't take sides and would be like, all right, I'm not having a part of this. This is, a human thing. I'm not going to have a part in it. I don't know why it would seem to take sides, especially not always the American side. It just seems kind of odd to me as well. So,
right, where GTFW would be watching boxing matches and football games and making those outcomes different.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So, and we also know the project shut down now. So, how much influence has the government had on it? Do we want to get into my new segment?
I want to tease it right now, so and then we'll do it later. How's that sound? So, what's the new segment for season 2 of the Quantum Leap podcast, Quantum Leap After Show?
All right. Well, as our longtime listener would know, we've had this thing going on where when I start making some suggestions on what's likely to happen in the series, 9 times out of 10, I turned out to be exactly right. And Albie was just getting more and more pissed off through the entire series of our podcasts.
As much as I could.
Yeah. So our segment, we're calling it Nostradamus, and I'm going to be making my predictions on what is likely to happen based on what I'm seeing.
It's pronounced Dumas.
How very Shawshank Redemption of you.
Like I said earlier, we have 3 great interviews in this episode that were recorded before any of the strikes were going on. We have Bart Johnson. You might remember him as the hijacking pilot from Flying the Friendly Skies. We have Dana Melanie. You might remember her as the person that was in the insane asylum that Ben was trying to rescue from Ben Interrupted. But first, we have an interview with Julie Barrett. She is the author of a book many of you might have on your shelf. I know I do. Quantum Leap A to Z. So we'll go to that now with Matt Dale interviewing Julie Barrett.
Hey, this is Matt for the Quantum Leap podcast. I'm super excited today for this interview because this is an interview unlike any I've done before, and it's one that speaks to my nerdy, researching-y heart. I've got with me here Julie Barrett. Julie, for those of you that don't remember, wrote the Quantum Leap A to Z. Julie, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. We're going to dive in with some questions in a minute, but just to give a little bit of background, again, for those that don't know, I know we have a lot of listeners who are brand new to fandom. Back in the 90s, there were 2 official books and a number of unofficial ones, but there were 2 official fact books about Quantum Leap. One was a large format one by Louis Chunovic, which was all big pictures and very little writing, and another was an actual proper book, and the actual proper book is the one that Julie was responsible for. So for my little contribution to the corner of Quantum Leap research, I always felt like I was standing on the shoulders of people like Julie who'd come before me, and I'm just it's going to show throughout the interview, but I'm just super excited to have this opportunity to talk nerdy researcher to nerdy researcher.
Yes.
So I've talked enough now. I'm going to hand over to Julie. Just maybe if I could just start by asking how you got into Quantum Leap. Were you watching from the start? Did you pick it up partway through? Tell me about your fandom.
Okay, well, I'm a nerdy fan. I started way back, really on my dad's knee watching The Twilight Zone, but, got into Star Trek and everything, but I always liked time travel. And when Quantum Leap started, I figured I needed to watch it. And I was pregnant, very pregnant during the pilot. And so I watched it in between trips down the hall. And I had a little trouble getting into it, but I started watching it, and then I went into labor on the night The Color of Truth aired, and it was like, no, I don't want to walk down the hall and induce labor. I want to watch this show. No.
Hang on, are you about to tell me that you got drunk?
No, I did not get drunk. No,
you didn't decide to get very drunk for The Color of Truth, just to put off labor.
Unfortunately, I did not get drunk, but they did have to induce labor.
If there's one thing I've learned from Quantum Leap, it's hold back labor by boozing.
Yes, so that was when I knew I was a fan, for sure. And then,
fair enough.
The next year, I started a fanzine, and it was called A Matter of Time. And so I got into that, and people would submit stories, and I would question something in the story, and they'd go, well, didn't you watch this one particular episode 3 minutes after the second commercial break? This little thing happened. So I'd have to go back.
So you were doing the fact checking right back then, yeah?
Yeah. So I had to go back and look at, I was videotaping them, obviously, so I had to go back and look at the tape and see what was going on. And at the same time, I was starting a biography of Sam and Al that we were updating in each issue.
Okay.
And so that kind of helped me with, with the background for reading stories that people sent in. Anyway, I'm working on this, and I was up to, I guess like 42 pages. Great number there. And yeah, I'm a big Hitchhiker fan too. So I'm up to that point, and there was the first Quantum Leap convention in Los Angeles. And another fan corralled me and took me into the bar and said, "This is Ginger Buchanan." And yes, and Ginger said, "Hi, Julie. I hear you're working on something. I'd like to see it." Okay, so I showed it to her, and she handed me her card and said, "Please send it to me when you're finished." And that was the start of the book.
And yeah, I've been because I'm updating my book at the moment, and I've been doing a lot of research. I managed to pick up a lot of old fanzines. I'm focusing on the news-based fanzines, but I've seen your name pop up there a lot as well. So I guess you were also. You seem to be heavily involved all over the place. You know, you act like you were just a fan dragged to the bar, but you seem to be all over the place because
very involved in fandom. I worked on the first fan run convention too. The 94.
That I did not know.
I was one of the instigators.
So let's walk through that a little bit then, because you said you were working on a biography of Sam and Al, and then you met Ginger.
Yeah.
Was what you sent to her actually? How close was that to the A to Z? Was there something entirely different?
What I showed her was just the biographical material, and we got to talking about it. And being a Trekkie, one of my Bibles for that show was the Star Trek Concordance. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool
book
to have a Quantum Leap version of that? So that's what I started in on, and Ginger thought it was a great idea. And
amazing. And I've got to share my own experiences here. And I didn't mean to do this, but I knew this would start slipping out. Are you into Back to the Future at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there was a book quite a few years back by Rich Handley, which was a complete chronology of the Back to the Future universe with all kinds of amazing book. And I looked at that book and said, wouldn't that be great if there was a Quantum Leap version of that? And that's how my book ended up starting. So I love that idea of taking something from another fandom and saying, Quantum Leap deserves this.
Hey.
God damn it.
Inspiration.
Very familiar. Yeah, absolutely. So was that a tough sell for Ginger when it started building towards more of a comprehensive A to Z?
No, that's really what she was, I think, looking for eventually. And so she was really excited to get it. And the tough sell was both to the publisher and to MCA, because the Quantum Leap book was in the works. And so,
yes,
how is this different? Why should we pick this up? And That's the reason there's no pictures in this book, because of the other book.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
to keep that difference. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was, I guess this was what, it came out in 95. I don't know how long a gestation period it had, but I guess this was quite early days of tie-in fact books. So an A to Z was probably quite a bold choice.
Yeah, well, yeah. I finished it in 93, about 2 weeks after the last episode, and sent it off to her, and got a note back from her saying, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to send it upstairs." So, and then the waiting began. That's how the publishing business works.
Yeah, and clearly for a while, and I know there was some interesting points with the publishing of this book, but I want to go back a bit, because again, this is just where my niche comes in, and talk about the research.
Sure.
Because I was blessed while I was writing my book to have. I had DVD rips on my computer that I could I could go to an episode, open up and say, I want to skip to 22 minutes, check this out, look at the subtitles. I had a lot of scripts to hand, not everything digitized, but it's been a tough old slog, but fairly convenient. Tell me about researching back in the early 90s and what kind of challenges you had there?
In my day, we had videotapes.
I didn't mean to do that, but
we had videotapes, and there was closed captioning, but not all video machines recorded closed captioning, and you actually had to have a different set-top box at the time. I'm giving my age away. Oh dear. No, but anyway, so. You think, well, you know this, but most people would think that binge watching a show for 8 hours a day would be heaven. It would be a great job. I sat in this room. This happens to be my bedroom, and I sat here on the bed and watched videos. I had a big stack of index cards. I watched videos. I made notes, spread the cards out on my bed, and then put them all away when I was finished for the day, because I'm a slob, and that kept me neat. And it also meant we had a place to sleep at night. So, and then in the evenings after dinner, I would go in and start typing things up. And there was a lot. I have a stack of index cards that's, I still have the cards in my office closet. Yeah.
You still got the cards? Oh, wow. What a memento. Marvelous. And I hadn't even thought about the index cards element, because the other thing that I took for granted in my journey was I opened up a Google Doc and just started writing. And I figured, you know what, if I need to go back and chuck some stuff in, DTP is just so easy these days.
Yeah.
I had no vision at the start of what my book was going to look like. But I guess you had to be a lot more rigid, and I guess had a clearer end vision. Yeah,
I had to have a little more of a vision, and of course, we did have Word back then, so it was a lot easier to use Word, and just like you use Google Docs to arrange things and make changes and stuff.
But index cards, marvelous.
Yeah.
So it got to 93. You passed over the document to Ginger, and then this long wait. What were you hearing during the wait? Because that was a wait that, as far as I can see, lasted nearly 2 years.
Yeah. Well, she every time I had the opportunity, every time I saw her, I'd ask her. We'd be at a con or something, and it's they're still talking about it. And finally, one afternoon, I was at home and the phone rang, and it wasn't about my car warranty. It was the licensing director of MCA. And it was like, "Hi, we'd like to buy your book." Like, oh, cool. So,
well, hang on, back up then, because this is sorry. I made a massive assumption at the start. Did you write all this not knowing that it was going to get picked up?
It was all on spec, and that's
wow.
the way a lot of the publishing industry works. You know, you write a novel, it's on spec.
Yeah.
This was on spec too, and I thought, well, you know, if it doesn't get picked up, it's going to be a fanzine. So,
yes,
and that would sell. So, you know, I was hoping it would get picked up, but.
Of course.
Yeah.
At least you had a plan B.
Yeah.
So sorry, I interrupted them because, I'm so focused on the QL novels, and I know, like, yes, Ginger was requesting maybe a couple of chapters to be written or anything, but I hadn't fully comprehended a full book. So you got that call from MCA, and they said they wanted to buy it, and
right.
Yeah, that must have been quite a relief.
It was, and I immediately dropped everything and drove to my husband's office because he was just a few miles away at the time. And guess what? Yeah.
Yes.
So that was cool.
Were there any caveats with that? Was it just okay? This is what you've written exactly. We're going to lift and drop it into published form.
Okay, well,
or did you have to do some more work?
Yeah, this was just like a novel. There was several. We went back and forth a lot with editing and fixing things. And this was another thing that happened because I finished so close to the end of the series. Some of the fans were still sending me scripts and the like, and so I'd find new things, I'd get new information, and I'd go update it. And Ginger was fine with that, obviously. And then when the editing process started, we had a pretty complete manuscript, but there was a lot of copy editing to be done. And I mean, I'm good on my grammar and spelling, but that you have to follow style guides and when you do these kind of things. So we went through that, and finally they sent me galleys and actual printed galleys, and went through all that. And then they said, okay, now we get to wait. Because that was the other thing. When they said, okay, we're publishing this, but it's going to be a year and a half. And it wasn't going to come out until 96 originally. And it took that long to get it approved. And so, okay, fine. And then Ginger called me one day and said, hey, guess what? We've had a slot open up earlier. So we're going to get that done sooner. So that was kind of cool.
Did you have any concern, or did you sense any concern that we both love Quantum Leap, but at the end of the day, this was a moderately well-performing show that had finished in 93. By 96, we all know Quantum Leap has lived on, but at that point, were you thinking, is there still an audience for this? At this point, there's just a novel coming out every few months.
Yeah, well...
Who's going to care about an A to Z?
I thought about that, but, I knew through the fan grapevine that people wanted to see it. So
people would care.
Yeah, but Universal was dubious, and they authorized a pretty short print run, and it sold out before release date, so they had to order a second print run. So that was...
You showed them. Good.
That was a nice little ego boo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that stop me if I'm skipping ahead? But
no.
When it comes to the publishing, that just immediately makes me think of the box tree fiasco, which perhaps you could share a little bit about that, unless I'm jumping the gun. Okay,
no. And I had heard rumors of this from some of the other novel writers, and basically, Ginger sent them my early draft. Sent Universal my early draft of the manuscript. And as I said, there were a lot of changes made after that. And but that's what they sent to Box Tree. And so there were a lot of inconsistencies, and someone, whoever typed it at Box Tree, really did a number on it. And There were many typos. And the day it was released I never saw, I was still doing the last bit of proofing when the book came out in the UK. Oh. It got rushed to press because at the time in the UK, the bookstores had a little more say than they do over here over a release schedule. And Network Sky was going to pick Quantum Leap up. So they wanted the book out to coincide with the premiere of QL on Sky. And I thought, this is cool. But I had no idea what they had taken for this. That was all out of my hands because this is a work for hire. And it was all out of Ginger's hands. And so one morning I woke up and I had an email from someone in the UK who was terribly upset, thought it was the worst book he had ever seen. And I won't say some of the other things he said, but it was like, holy moly. So, I immediately started getting hold of some of the UK fans on what's going on with this book. And then they explained to me what happened. And I am so grateful to the UK fans because they had my back on this. They really did. And they were out explaining to the other UK fans what happened. And they knew, that the US edition of the book was going to be so much better. And I was really glad to have that happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Fandom is an amazing place. And I only picked up both copies of the book when I was researching for my guide in 2015-16, and I already knew at that point about these issues. So clearly fandom has kept that going, even well beyond the point where these books are out of print. Get the US version, for goodness sake.
Well,
and I think the UK edition had photos in it, though, didn't it? I know you mentioned earlier about that. I guess Box Tree didn't get that memo.
Yeah, the UK version had photos, and apparently they rushed it to print so fast that the photos were messed up, and they had to recall it and reissue it. That's what I've been told. So,
not surprising. Just going back to the point you made earlier, I know some of the later novels that were printed in the UK were very much the same. They came out months before they came out in the US, and there's typos throughout them.
Yeah, Ashley McConnell had told me that, and she said, it was frustrating for her because she was still, like me, finishing up on copy edits.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And we just had absolutely no control over it. And I've had other things that have been published in the US and the UK, and they always sent me proofs. Once they anglicized the text, they would send me proofs to go over. And that was not the case here.
No, clearly not. At least your vision came out in the US edition.
Yes.
Once it's... We spoke a bit about what was in the book. Was there anything else that you were hoping to have put into the book, just in terms of your vision of it?
No. given
the opportunity to go back and do it again,
if I had opportunity to do it again, I would tighten up some of the language, change some terminology, because our language is always changing, but that's about all I would do.
Yeah. I mean, it still holds up, and it was, it was certainly very useful for me before I got hold of a lot of the draft scripts, getting spellings of names and things like that, and surnames of characters that were just mentioned on screen. It's a fabulous book for that kind of thing. So I'm glad you got it out in one territory in the way that you wanted it to.
Well, and I'm also, I really need to acknowledge the US fans who helped proofread this too, because they were awesome. And because a lot of them had scripts that I didn't have, and so they were able to correct names and places that that I could only pick up just from listening. So that was,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perhaps we've spoken a lot about the A to Z and research in general. But I gather you were also hoping to get a novel printed in that line. Can you tell me anything about that?
It's still unfinished.
Ooh.
Yeah, I keep going back to it every once in a while and working on it. But because, well, things have changed and it's a lot easier to research. I pitched to Ginger. She asked me if I would be interested in writing a novel. And I said, oh, sure. So what I pitched to Ginger was another Simo-Leap. And Al ends up on the front porch of the haunted house with Myra Boychik, and where things were going to go bump in the night. And, you know, his dad is dying at this point, and so Ginger said, no, I think we still ought to have Sam leaping, but I have this great idea. And Ginger, she has, you know, she spent years, has shelf full of Hugo and Nebula awards. I think she kind of knows what she's talking about. She said, what I'd like you to try is to have Sam leap into a nun in the Catholic hospital where Al's father is. And I'm going, okay.
Okay.
Because really, all I knew, I'm Presbyterian, so all I knew about nuns was the girl down the street who went to, you know, Catholic school. And, you know, I'd see them out on the street sometimes, and I knew they had rulers, and that was really all I knew at the time. But now I have tremendous respect for nuns after all the research I did. You know, it's just something I didn't really know about because it wasn't, you know, my religion. But so, but I was also at the time getting into a British show called Ballykiss Angel. Yeah, I don't know if you had ever watched that, but
yes.
So, and I actually got into that fandom some, so I ended up learning a lot more, and so that was helpful. But I was working on it, and then the novel program died. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was around that time.
So it was like, well, I kind of have bills to pay, and I need to work on things that are going to pay the bills. So it's still sitting there unfinished, and I go back to it every once in a while. And I have plans for Al.
Yeah. So I take it this is something that you're hoping one day to finish and publish online?
Probably,
assuming that the novel range doesn't get picked up again, which we can always hope.
Yeah, we can always hope. I'm kind of still hoping to finish that. I know where it's going to go, so that's good.
Yeah. I think a lot of the listeners would love to see that. So no pressure at all. But fingers crossed. It'd be yeah. How far through that are you? Are you still near the beginning?
I'm still pretty early on in it. I wake up one morning, and go, ooh, this idea, and I'll go, you know, go type a bit, and then it peters out, and that's kind of the way I write.
Moments of inspiration.
Yes. So
that's kind of covered off, I think, in a fair amount of detail, your tie-ins with the Quantum Leap in publishing in the 90s. What can you tell us in brief about life for Julie Barrett in the last 20 years? How have things been? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Oh, that's, yeah. Well, I've...
As a broad question, I know.
Okay, well, I freelance. I've been freelancing since before I started the book, actually. And I've written a lot of ad copy, which is the same as fiction, basically. And I'm working. I've stayed in con running. I'm working with a nonprofit that runs a local literature-based science fiction convention. And so I do a lot with that. I'm on the board of the parent organization, and writing turned into webmastering, which turned into learning databases. So yeah. And well, I had a part-time job with the company doing tech writing, and like, we're starting a website. We hear you work on a website elsewhere. So that, kind of rolled into that. So I do the website for the nonprofit, and we have a whole gigantic back end for scheduling and keeping track of people and panels on the convention. And that was all hand rolled. So,
impressive.
Oh, I work with an audio theater group, and I've written several audio dramas.
Is that, do you have a link that we can share for that?
Yeah. My website is barrettmanor.com. And if you do that and /radio, that will take you to our radio shows. We've done a lot of recreations of old time radio programs. That's how our group started. And then we go to conventions, science fiction conventions around the region, and we do shows where we cast from the attendees at the convention, and then they get up on stage, generally like during the break in the costume contest, and we put on the show, and people love it. They get a chance to act or work with sound effects, and so it's kind of building some skills along with having a lot of fun.
That's wow! That sounds like a lot of fun. And this whole half hour has been a lot of fun for me. So thank you, both personally, because it's just been a real pleasure to talk to you, but also on behalf of the Leapers for sharing your memories of the A to Z and everything you've been doing for fandom over the years. And we'll share your link in the show notes so that people can go and check out what you're up to.
Okay, and
so thank you for your time, Julie.
You're welcome, and all the best with the next edition of your book.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Cheers.
Greetings from the future.
What do you always have to say?
Oh, sorry. Future Albie here. We are not at home, and we got some late breaking news. We got an interview with directing producer Chris Grismer. And instead of making you wait till next week, we're just going to pop it in right here. So enjoy.
Hey, this is Matt Dale and Christopher DeFilippis with the Quantum Leap podcast, and we're here today with Chris Grismer. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Chris, I think a lot of people will recognize from seeing in the opening credits, amongst a long list of executive producers, there's a whole team of producers on the show, but we know, we've heard you referred to by Dean and others as the directing producer. So we know there's something a little bit different about what you do, compared to the rest of the executive team there. So perhaps we could just start by asking simply, what is it you do on the show? What's your part?
Yeah, technically I'm a directing producer on the show. So the directing producer kind of oversees the directors. With Martin, we hire the directors. The show with Martin and Dean, we hire the directors. And then I kind of make sure that we have a solid look for the season, that we have similar language being spoken, especially in HQ. And also I'm there to inspire the directors, to kind of push them to find their voice, and we want each story to be unique. So we sort of push them in that direction. Also, we kind of the directing producer does a bit of pre-production that the directors wouldn't be there for, like finding initial locations so we can streamline their experience once they arrive.
So you had said you are charged with giving the season a solid look. Can you explain
not
what
necessarily.
that means?
It's more like what our show is different than other shows because a lot of shows, they have a certain language that they want spoken with every episode. And there's things you don't do. Sometimes you arrive and the producing director tells you, we don't do shots like that. We don't do shots like that. This is our color palette, etc. Where our show is very different because each episode is its own little movie. It's a new leap. It's a new, unique story. So we want the directors to find inspiration in that and create a unique, look for the show and come up with a new language almost every episode. So it's a lot of fun that way, and it's a little different in that we're not telling people not to do things. We're encouraging them to find those things within the story.
So when you are doing this, I assume that you have to when you're getting directors, if you can talk about that process, that's always fascinated me, because when you have a rotating crew of directors, are there some that you try to work with more than others, or how do these names get chosen? How do you get these people to do these episodes?
Everyone has a list. The studio, the network, Martin, Dean, myself, we all have people we really like and that we've worked with before. And then slowly those lists get whittled down. Some people have like, well, that person didn't do a great job for us here, or we're not fans, or we're giant fans of them. And then the names sort of float to the surface that everybody likes. And then you try them out. And then when they hit it out of the park, which has generally happened for us, then we try to have them back.
You've talked a little bit about what you currently do for the show. Maybe I can now ask you to go back to the start and ask how you got involved in the show to start with. What's your history with Martin and Dean?
I don't have much of a history with Martin and Dean. I knew Martin's name and Dean's name before I started on the show. The original showrunners, Brian and Steven, on the show, I did a show with them years ago. One of my first directing gigs, especially in the sci-fi realm, was a show called Kyle XY that I did for them. And so we'd remained in touch, and I was one of a few candidates that came forward for the directing producer position and interviewed and pitched out my ideas. And then they brought me on to sort of produce the first pilot and then continue from there. The second pilot, not the first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The first pilot became my episode 6 that I directed.
Right. So I think we're both really curious about the process that went into episode 6, considering that you had to, I guess, you used some footage that had already been produced, and then you had to put it all together with just this glorious mashup of stuff to make this episode. We're so curious to know what went into getting that, because it looked great in the end. Yeah.
Well, I think Martin and Dean in the writer's room did a great job of taking what they had and going and finding a new story and finding then we looked at what footage we had and where we could fill in the holes and how to cover that. Like, we need a close-up of this person with this background to make this work. I think we ended up using 18 minutes of original footage from the first episode, and then the rest was all shot on the backlot and around the backlot.
And as well as that, kind of the technical aspect of putting that all together and the writing aspect, did you find that you were leaning more into, okay, well, this is what Helen Shaver did, this was her style, I need to do something that complements that, and maybe going in a different direction than you would have been naturally inclined to?
To some extent. I mean, mostly the color palette, we had to stick with that, and how it was lit. We wanted it to not be jarring. But we also had a new language for the show by that point in terms of our close-ups and our movement and character movement. So we did, we took what we could from her pilot, and then we sort of brought in the new look of the show and made the two fit together.
One thing that we as fans really geeked out over was the introduction of yet another hand link. And we were happy to see that prop. So, I mean, when you talk about like the look of the show, and you see how, I think What a Disaster and that original pilot did look somewhat different. What were the things that you were conscious of, like props, like that hand link? Or is that what you mean when you say like establishing the language?
The language is more like in terms of camera. For me, it was in terms of the camera movement. Like, when's the camera moving? How much are the characters moving while they're speaking? How, that's sort of the language of the show. And also in terms of the framing, our framing was much different than the new framing is much different than the original framing of the first, pilot. But in terms of the hand links and things like that, no, I think that no one was happier with that original hand link design. Truthfully, I've done a few sci-fi shows, and that is every time someone designs something that's a communication device that's supposed to be in the future, they always look exactly like that. And so I think everyone was happy to see that one go, and is much happier with the new design, which was a lot of fun to be a part of designing that. So yeah, when we did Killjoys, I did the show Killjoys, sci-fi show, and we had designed all these things, and every prototype comes in and looks exactly like that. So.
And here I thought it was a little bit reminiscent of the original series hand link, because at least it had some colors in it. You guys went in a completely different direction with the hockey puck. We call it the hockey puck hand link on the
hockey
show.
Puck. Well, it's got some turquoise and some green, and and colors come out of it.
Yeah. But that nice little circular shape, it's got a uniqueness to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So perhaps we could talk a little bit about, you had this role looking after the whole of season 1 and season 2, and we really want to get on to talking about season 2 for sure. I'm trying to hold back. But during season 1, you also had your own episodes that you were assigned to direct, or I guess you assigned yourself to direct. How did you get those particular gigs?
Well, that's really Martin and Dean. Once we have the directors that we want to use, Martin and Dean kind of look at they know what's coming better than I do in the writer's room. Because I just have to wait for them to tell me what's coming. But they'll look at the director's strong suits and, this person, like Pamela, is an unbelievable director for Leap, Die, Repeat. She'd be great with the meticulous nature of this. So, those sort of assignments come from them, and they assigned me. I was lucky enough to get assigned the ones I was assigned. So, and usually the directing producer will take the ones that are like mid-season finales and things that might need extra time that you wouldn't have, because a lot of directors they're just there for 8 days before 8 prep days. And it's not enough time sometimes to prep a big finale or prep a show that travels, or, anything that requires extra time and care usually goes to the directing producer on the show.
Well, maybe for the benefit of the audience listening, we can run down the episodes that you did direct in season 1. You had O Ye of Little Faith. You had the aforementioned What a Disaster. You had SOS, the one with Brandon Routh, one of my favorites. I got to talk to Superman thanks to you. And Judgment Day, the finale. So I guess that's where, like you said, when it comes in, the more important episodes, they're going to get you for, say, like a Judgment Day. And I remember back to the original series when Don Belisario used to direct all of the finales and the opens most times. So I can now kind of see the inner workings of that.
Yeah, it's not necessarily they're assigning them to me because they're more important. It just honestly is sometimes it's because either the vibe fits me properly, or it's because it's going to require like 2 weeks extra prep. And honestly, it comes down to the fact that you don't have to pay me for those extra 2 weeks of prep. You'd have to pay a director to come in. So
I imagine SOS particularly would have been quite prep heavy. Would that be a correct assumption? Okay, all right. Yeah.
Very prep heavy.
The look on your face.
Yeah, no, it was amazing, and I loved doing that episode. And the initial sort of journeys to the boat with Dean and with Alex, we just kind of go and wander around. And what about something here? And what about something here? And this works, and maybe we build this. And there's this guy at the boat who was the electrician, I think, in the 70s on the ship, like when he was still in the Navy, and he works there still. And so one day I just was touring the ship looking at interesting places to shoot, and he pulls out this keyring. He goes, "You want to see some stuff that no one's allowed to see?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So, you get to go and see all these old weird rooms full of equipment that's still still functioning. It was really interesting.
Was there a part of you while you were doing that thinking, "Oh, I'd love to shoot here. This would be so much fun. Look at the angles, the lighting."
Yeah, some of it is perfect, but their combat rooms are very, very small. So definitely the part of me that is going to be on set for those 12 hours was like, let's build this. Let's build something that looks a lot like this, but is on a very roomy stage.
I guess that makes sense. What I really like about this new iteration of the show is the fact that Ben can leap beyond his own lifetime. And as a result, we've had leaps far back. I think they're going to the Salem witch trials in season 2, but let's again, sticking with season 1, you directed, I think, Ben's furthest leap back yet that we've seen on screen, which was O Ye of Little Faith. So when you're approaching that 30s style, do you bring a different mentality to it? Like I guess the broader question is, when you see the episodes that you get, do the time periods influence the way you approach the look?
The time period, definitely, and the genre and the way that time period has been expressed in cinema previously all sort of influenced how I wanted to capture that one. And truthfully, a big part of the influence for that one was I just had to find a house to shoot in on the lot that could work as that house. And the ones that were presented to me were that were shootable. There's not a lot, like you think that big lot like Universal, they're going to have a ton of houses that you can shoot inside. And there's a few, but they're generally finished on the outside for big street scenes, but there are not a lot of them that are finished on the inside. And so, I was looking around and there was one that, the one that we ended up shooting in was considered unsafe and it wasn't really finished inside. And they shot, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in it. And, when we walked in, I was like, let's just look in there. We went in and looked. Our amazing location managers, like Dan, was like, let's just take a peek. And it was just perfect. And I was like, if Universal can make this safe for us, because we can't afford to do that, then we can, shoot in here. And that house sort of spoke to the language of how we wanted to capture it. As soon as we had that and that huge stairwell and everything just kind of it feels like my parents' house in Toronto, truthfully. It feels like kind of semi-haunted, Irish family just moved and has everything sort of stuffed into the walls. So it felt, it sort of created the language for us, helped create the language for us.
So that episode, the exteriors were the same house?
Yeah. Yeah, the exterior.
So you guys shot outside and in.
Yeah, we did. But if you step on you can't look from the deck like we did. We had to go shoot that. Like over their backs was a different location, and looking at them because it's right on the road there, so you can't really look out from it.
So moving on from O Ye of Little Faith, I know you complimented Pamela's excellent work on Leap, Die, Repeat, and you said that kind of meticulous style was perfect for her. Meticulous is certainly one of the words that I'd use to describe Judgment Day. And I'm really interested in the process that goes behind preparing for something like that has multiple time frames in the same physical location with the same actors, plus 2 Caitlins on a split screen and with a double, all that kind of stuff that must have been one of the more complex shoots. What can you tell me about how you prepare for something like that?
Well, there was a lot of preparation for that one. And it was a moving target to some extent. We were figuring out as we went a little bit in terms of what was the future going to look like, because you could go so many different ways with that. And thankfully, we went a little bit more primitive, which helped us. So you don't have to create all this future tech, which I know a lot of, that's a tough thing to create, especially on a television timeline. To spend so much time. Well, what is it? Because things are already moving so quickly right now. Just looking at the Dome opening in Las Vegas this weekend, it's just like the technology is just beyond right now. But we just spent a lot of time trying to create what was HQ going to look like then, what would be happening, and that such beautiful stuff with it snowing in there. And so I had drawings made of what that could be from, what it would look like in there. So we did a bunch of preliminary drawings with our sketch team. And from there, then we had to sort of, once we had the scenes, I had to figure out how to shoot them, and we used motion control which is something I used on Orphan Black when I did that show. Because we had multiple characters, multiple of the same actor playing, different characters in the frame. This was much easier than doing 6 of them, say, that they have to do in Orphan Black. But it still requires, what we were lucky we found, we actually cast an actor to play, to play Caitlin, when she wasn't, when she was acting opposite. So she wasn't just playing off nothing when it was, when it's in the split screen. So we cast a very, very good actor, who actually looked very similar to her. It was very strange. There's some of her in the episode. You can see her when she runs out of the restaurant. That's actually
Well, now I've got to go back and watch. Thank you.
Yeah. So they were so similar. I was gonna change it out, and I was like, no, she looks perfect. So, there's that little, Easter egg there. But, it was great to have an actual actor in that chair across from her, because sometimes, shows will cheap out a little bit. So it was nice that we spent the money and not have an actor there. So they're just basically acting to a sandbag or a tennis ball or something, but you're not getting anything back from the other actor. So that's what helped make that episode so special as well.
So I guess the question I have for that, maybe this is too technical. I don't know if you can explain how it works, but in the center of the frame, when you have those split screens, is Raymond, and he is reacting to both Caitlins. How do you do that where it just looks as seamless as it does? Because if he's holding someone's hand at the table who's not Caitlin, but it is Caitlin, or, I don't understand how you put them together.
Yeah, there's a little bit of VFX in there, but we also have motion control is like a moving split screen. So basically it's a robotic camera arm, that moves and does the exact same move multiple times, as many times as you want. It's exact. So you can actually just, pull somebody out, and then you can put another person in, and they'll pass them, and then you can cut your seam right when it gets past their body, and it becomes a new part of the scene. So it's, I don't know if that's explaining it well enough. It's kind of like a green screen a little bit, in that you can pull out the background a little bit.
Right. Let's put it this way. I understand it more now than I ever have. So it'd be great to see it in action. I think now I can somewhat envision it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
like a moving split screen is all it is. Yeah.
For all the Luddites out there.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say Chris and I are huge fans of Back to the Future, so it's to us it's like thinking about how they did a lot of those complex shots in Back to the Future too, but obviously with a couple of decades more of technological advancements. So
you read my mind, Matt. I was thinking of exactly
you were thinking the McFly family scenes.
Yes, it is kind of just magic. Like a lot of the time, if you have a matching hair and you just are sort of half over someone's face, and Caitlin's there, if you're half over the double's face, you feel like your mind just wants that to be Caitlin. So you just see what we're telling you to see.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe sometimes you're cheating it, but we don't notice in our brain.
Exactly. It's a little bit of trickery. Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to start moving us towards season 2 now, because and particularly because I noticed you mentioned about, maybe you can't talk about this, I don't know, but I've got to ask. You mentioned about how going further into the future creates some problems, because things move so fast, and how do you know what the future is going to look like? We have just seen an episode where we've discovered that the project is now 3 years in the future. Is this something that is going to be considered throughout the series? Because we're now in the near future, effectively. Is that going to change the look of the present day?
Yeah, well, you can see in the trailer a bit that people have a little bit of a different look this year. And I don't know how long we'll spend in the near future, the 3 years in the future, but suffice it to say we'll spend some time there.
Okay, cool. All right. So,
I mean, as classic series fans, that near future time is perfect for us. It's very exciting.
We're hoping that we come back and everybody has like Al's outfits on and like the funky ties,
neon earrings,
neon earrings, like the LED earrings, right?
And the Lego hand link comes back.
Right. We can dream, can't we? We can dream. Yeah. So, but so I mean, so you are the director for I believe, Closure Encounters, which is episode 3. As you said, a lot of it showed up in the trailer that we got. And Matt, what was the year on that one?
Some late 40s, I think.
Late 40s, okay. But apparently about aliens. I mean, with a name like that, and
it's
talking about Area 51.
Yeah, it's 1949 New Mexico, and it's Project Sign, which is it's sort of a Project Blue Book episode.
Okay, all right.
That you can see sort of in the trailer.
So, yeah, what we saw in the trailer was bits of what looked like a classic alien abduction going on, maybe. And I'm just wondering, without giving away too much of what's going to come in the next 2 weeks, were you influenced in your choices by shows like The X-Files and stuff like that? Because it looked like some of those kind of, the colours especially, and I know I'm talking about 5 seconds worth of footage from a trailer here, but
yeah.
Was there...
It's what we do with the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's I was definitely influenced, and I turned to those. Close Encounters is such a huge movie for me, in my childhood, and I loved how the lights from those things you can see in the trailer, we sort of imitated as much as we could. But it was, yeah, definitely that. I'm a huge X-Files fan, a huge, Art Bell fan of anything sort of alien-like, which used to be science fiction, but I guess now it's just science, so declassified, I think. But it was a lot of fun to tackle that investigation, and I think, especially a science fiction audience is really going to like it.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm holding out hope that it's a sequel somehow to Starbright, and, maybe Sam will get a UFO.
Yeah. I always loved in the original series the episodes where you didn't quite know if everything had been explained. I kind of cherished. That's why I loved in Oh Ye of Little Faith as well. There's some moments you're like, I don't think that explains it. So yeah, I love those moments.
Oh, yeah. We're still not convinced that the apparitions that Ben was seeing, even though he was drugged, were all Janus. There was something else going on there. Some kind of boogeyman stuff going on there.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that stood out in the trailer, and I don't know if this is one of your episodes, so how much you can share, I'm not sure, but it looked like there's some location filming going on in Egypt, which, whether that was your episode or not, I guess would have been a
that was my
deal.
episode. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, we went to Egypt.
What can you tell us about going to Egypt?
Well, I went there to scout on my own about a month before we shot. Got very sick. It was really one of the best shoots of my life. I shot a movie in Japan years ago, and that was a lot of fun. But this was it was chaotic and very satisfying. And I think we got to shoot in places that most people don't even get to go visit, because the government was sort of beside us at every turn, which was a blessing and a curse, but it was really, really amazing. We hired a local crew, and we brought our actors and wardrobe, hair and makeup, and AD and cinematographer, and just kind of went for it. And I think it's a really, really unique, satisfying episode.
If I may, I believe in the trailer Ben is walking in front of a pyramid. Were you guys on the Giza Plateau?
We were. Yeah, we were all over Giza and in front of the Sphinx.
Yeah.
And they offered for us they brought us down into catacombs, and do you want to shoot down here? Well, it seems like a lot more work down here in the catacombs, carrying cameras and, but we shot in a lot of really interesting places. So.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I missed the catacomb tours when I was there, so they fill up real quick. You should have taken advantage of it.
Yeah.
It's so cool. A lot of those kind of shots that Chris is talking about these days seem to be happening in Mandalorian-style wall environments. So to actually go out there and do it, volume stages, And my first assumption was that it was that, and then I started hearing that it had actually been a location shoot. So was there ever any consideration of doing that back at home?
Oh yeah, there's consideration. The great thing we have is Martin and Dean aren't big on just everything being VFX, especially, if you have the Mandalorian's time, like, what do they have, like 25 years per episode, or I don't know what their time is. I'm not sure, but we don't have that kind of time. So, our visual effects are going to end with, for something like that, are going to end with, I guess we have to air this. Like, that's where it's going to end. It's not going to be like nailed it, so, and also Martin especially is really big on using, special effects and miniatures and things from, using all the tools that we have throughout the history of cinematic storytelling. And so it's really fun. We can go to real locations. We can use miniatures. We can use visual effects, just waiting for the all puppet episode, which I'm sure is coming.
I think it's really funny that you had mentioned earlier in the interview that technology is moving at such a fast pace. It's almost a nightmare scenario to create something like a plausible future. But here we are at a time when we all assumed that Ben was being green screened. The fact that you actually flew out to a location seems so impossibly quaint to me. And the fact that you're saying it's actually faster and easier to fly all the way to freaking Cairo to do one episode rather than get it done somehow with VFX on the lot it's fascinating to me.
Well, that's a huge process. Like, we're still, the Directors Guild is trying to figure out creatively what it means for directors to be a part of that kind of shooting, because you do have to be a part of the shots months before you actually step onto the stage, because the sets are created, the camera movements are created for that set, and so that happens all in the various, visual effects houses before you step on stage. So you have to really be a part of it. And it's months beforehand that it requires. So we don't really have that time on a network television schedule.
We had discussed again the possibility. We don't know what the project's going to look like when we come back, but if we can maybe discuss the process that went into, if you know, of trying to bring maybe some feeling of the classic series to the new series. In this first episode, we got to see Addison being scanned in her Fermi suit, I guess so that she could be present in the imaging chamber for Ben when he was observing her. This is before everything happened with Martinez. So that's right there, a callback to the classic series. Are there other connective elements that you guys are conscious of that you try to bring in to keep the DNA of the original somewhat for the new series?
I see it materializing, and you'll see some of it materializing a little bit more in this season. But that's definitely a Martin and Dean question, because I know that Martin is, especially wound up in how that sort of, story is kept, sort of sewn into what we're doing.
I see. Well, that gives me hope. Now I can't wait to see episode 2.
So on the topic of episode 2 then, maybe we can start to wrap up just by throwing forwards. We've got, as we understand it, at least another 7 episodes, maybe more, depending on how things go with the strike. What can you tease the fans with for what we've got to look forward to for the next couple of months?
Well, I think this season we have, we've wrapped up the Martinez, Leaper X, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so what it's going to offer us is a chance to spend more time within the leaps themselves, which I really, really like. I loved an episode in O Ye of Little Faith when we could spend a lot of time in the leap with Ben. Mm-hmm. And I think this season especially has a lot bigger, sort of more emotional, more exciting leaps than even last season. And we go from, a bank robbery in 1978 to UFO investigation, to Indiana Jones like hunt for atomic energy secrets. So and we go all the way to Egypt as well, like we mentioned. But I think it's a really satisfying season so far. We've made it all the way to the mid-season finale, and then we've got more to come from there.
So couldn't ask for more. Fabulous. We are on the edge of our seats to see where this takes us, and we've certainly we loved episode 1.
Oh yeah, wait till you hear the podcast, Chris. We gush over episode 1. We're ridiculous.
I'm excited. That was a good one. That one has miniatures in it. You should talk to Martin about that when you He's was incredible to be a part of, because I've worked with miniatures before, but never to that extent. So it was very, very cool to see all these people who, experts in that field who maybe don't get as much work as they used to come out and sort of lend their time and creativity to make this really, really amazing episode.
I know now all the fans listening are going to want to know which scenes in general were the miniature scenes.
The UFO, or not the UFO, the satellite installation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
It's like a mixture of live action and miniature. And yeah, it's just a lot of, talk to Martin about it, but it was a lot of fun to be a part of.
I just
a big headache, huge headache, and a lot of fun.
It looked so real, I assumed it was CGI. That's basically where my head was going.
Sometimes that happens. Great. I've shot in New York and been standing on the rooftop, and we're all shooting on this roof, and I'm like, finally, I'm in a real rooftop. There's the Chrysler building, and then it looks like we're standing on a stage with a photo site.
Yeah.
Now I have to go back and see if that's just, okay, that's a remote control Jeep crashing into a Lego tower.
No, that's a real Jeep. That's a real Jeep.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's fascinating.
Well, Chris, you've been really generous with your time. As I say, I know at the moment we're on the start of a journey that's going to take us over at least the next couple of months. We are all so excited, and just thank you for being with us at the start of it.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And we're back. How about that interview, Quantum Leap A to Z? I know we all got it on the shelf.
Awesome.
I use it as a reference guide. I've never really read through the whole thing like I did with like the Star Trek companion stuff like that. You guys got a copy of that? I'm sure you do, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
No,
well, Brian's got a copy.
Quantum Leap A to Z.
Oh, is that the Australian version? Or the everywhere but United States version?
Everywhere but US.
Z. Okay.
Yes.
But, it's a similar book.
Yeah, I've actually met and talked to Julie when we did the convention. So that she's great. She's really nice.
Yeah. And I've actually met and was friends with for a long time before he died the guy who did the voice of Lord Zed from Power Rangers.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, by the way, since we're getting into some other media, just on a little tangent, have you seen Oppenheimer yet?
Loved it. Rennie and I did Barbenheimer as soon as we got back from Disney World. We did like 8 or 9 days at Disney World for her birthday, and as soon as we got back, we went to IMAX Barbenheimer, which was Oppenheimer in IMAX, and then Barbie not in IMAX because they weren't running in IMAX yet, but I think it's going to come out on the 22nd of last month. So we'll go see that.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, I went to see Oppenheimer with my mate Harry. You remember him? He was
Harry. He got high and ate Fruity Pebbles. Yeah, I love that guy. I can't wait to hug him. When
we ended up seeing that, and when there's one particular scene in it, and I burst out laughing. And Harry says to me, "Why the hell did you laugh at that?" And then I explained it to him, and he burst out laughing. There's one part of it where Oppenheimer says he was talking about wanting to bring the project to New Mexico because that's where he's from, and he said, growing up, I thought that if I could find a way to combine physics and New Mexico, my life would be complete. And I just burst out laughing with that because Quantum Leap straight away.
My mind went to Quantum Leap. I didn't laugh, but my mind went to Quantum Leap at that moment. Yeah. Once the bomb exploded, I was like, oh, there's some more. And then like an hour later, the movie ended. I was like, wow. But it was interesting.
Mm.
It was a beautiful shot film.
Well, I thought that they were going to show some... well, I'm glad that they didn't, but I thought they were going to show the bombing of Japan as well as just the test shots. But I'm kind of glad they didn't.
Yeah, because it was from Oppenheimer's perspective. So
yeah.
Speaking
of which, talking about perspectives, getting back onto Quantum Leap. Well, I saw a meme recently saying, "Are you noticing someone out of the acting out of the ordinary? Don't be worried. It's probably just Sam Beckett come to save something in your life."
I think Brian's probably uniquely like me to where once a day he gets that meme sent to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's on the website somewhere. I've got a whole page of memes, and I'm sure that's one of them.
We're going to have to keep adding to them, I think. I occasionally make them. I think I made one with that Oppenheimer quote on it, and then I put the Quantum Leap logo at the bottom.
Send it to me. I'll put it on.
Yeah, I'll have to find it again. But I think there are, based on the really unique concept that Quantum Leap is, I think that we probably do have ways around what's going on. But ideally, we'd just like it to be sorted out. For God's sake, just pay your writers and actors properly and make sure they're getting royalties from streaming. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we have 8 episodes filmed already. I believe they have 8 episodes filmed. So that'll get us, a couple months, and if they space them out, maybe a little bit more. So then we're probably looking at a hiatus before the back end of season 2, whenever the strike is over, or the strikes are over.
Well, season 1, season 1 or 6, whatever we're calling it, didn't that go 8 episodes and then we had a big break anyway? So it's pretty much exactly the same as what happened in season 1.
I think I saw December 6th as the last one. But there's a 9th episode with a title, so I'm not sure what's happening there. But there should be probably a 2-week hiatus around Thanksgiving, it looks like.
Well, we probably won't get it back till January then.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
at least for the minute.
It takes a while. Yeah, so we're talking 6 months.
It may be way longer than that.
Filming so. But as long as it doesn't get canceled, a lot of shows have been, getting canceled during this whole thing. So we've got to
Well, it looks like Quantum Leap's in a pretty good position at the moment, actually, because it's one of the few shows that's actually getting something new. Most shows haven't even got anything new coming out. And I think Quantum Leap's, am I right? Quantum Leap got moved to a better time slot instead of like 10:30. It's 8:30 now or something, isn't it?
8 o'clock.
9 p.m.?
Yeah.
9? Something like that?
I think the last thing I've seen is 8 o'clock. I think they've moved it again to Wednesdays at 8.
Well, I know we just watched it, so we must know what time it's on. I do like the fact that it's airing Tuesday nights instead of Monday nights now, because that gives me an extra day to edit. Wednesday. Yep. So, well, we're in different time zones. You're in California, right, Brian?
No, I'm in North Carolina. We're in the same one.
North Carolina. That's right. Okay. Going back to the show, I at first was disappointed that you didn't like it, Hayden, and that you're kind of in the middle, Brian, and I'm loving it because we're not all just sitting here agreeing on how awesome it is. And I like getting this other perspective.
But I will say all this stuff about, giving up your life for the military and, even if I knew it was a suicide mission, I probably would have still agreed to it. I'm like, off. If I knew that my government was sending me out to be killed, I'd go and walk over to the opposing bloody side and say, here's everything I know, look after me.
Yeah, she just got done talking about, she's female and it was hard for her to even get there and they put her in this crappy position. And then all of a sudden she said she'd die for them. And I was like, really? Would you? Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the one thing that bothered me about the episode, not because it was bad in the episode, because there are people like that put their country and governments and different things above themselves in their lives, which I don't understand. I mean, no organization, political group, country is more important than an individual, I think. So that the whole brainwashing and trauma. What I do for a living is I edit podcasts. One of them is all about the military, and I hear all these stories that are where they're trying to rationalize what they did and how they feel and their traumatic effects for the rest of their lives. And I'm just thinking these people are so brainwashed because they're just thrown into wars like they're just target practice cannon fodder, like they were mentioning in the episode. And they're trying to give it some kind of heroic purpose that their lives aren't worth anything, and the trauma these people have to live with. It's just I'm against the whole thing. But that being said, that's not anything against the episode. That's just showing that some people are like that, and including Addison. She's very much like that. That's the mission.
Yeah, she's saying that's military service.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that gets me thinking too. There's this theme again coming through. You can't trust your government. that's just this theme that keeps popping up in Quantum Leap. And it does make me wonder, are we going to see some sort of a payoff to this? Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
So,
but
can we talk about the 3-year thing? It's been 3 years. To me, Ian didn't look too much different. But Ben noticed that Ian
a little more mature.
That maybe they were wearing a trench coat. You think so?
The hair,
I didn't notice
it was
any
different. Yeah.
How do you think this will affect the show going forward with the 3-year time jump? This might be a good, Hayden, to introduce your Nostradamus segment. Theories about the upcoming season. Do you have any?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
All right.
Did you notice that Ian didn't show up until Ben completed the mission?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. Does that mean that something that Ben did on the mission actually helped Project Quantum Leap to end up being put back? So, did Ben save someone's life who becomes instrumental in Quantum Leap? Or did Ben's actions with the rest of the crew that they're on help help them to rise up the ranks? You know, is the woman, for example, I forget her name. What was the woman's name, Albie?
Greer,
thank you. Yeah. Does Greer become very high up in the military, for example, and end up restarting Quantum Leap and have a big finger in the pie? It makes me think that, you know, the reason that it's taken so long for, well, not just for the project to get back in contact with Ben, but, you know, 3 years have passed, is because Ben had to lay this groundwork in this particular episode, saving these people and helping the military people like Greer to rise up the ranks to help get Project Quantum Leap going again and to, you know, help Ben to complete his future missions. I actually think it could be that what's going to happen through the series is that every leap that Ben does lays some sort of track for something else that's going to be going on later on in the series. So that's my thoughts. I think we're actually going to see some sort of a payoff from what Ben did in this episode coming up actually at the project.
So maybe at the end connected, like they did with Martinez at the end, putting all those together somehow.
By the way, refresh my memory, was there a character named Perez in the first series?
There was an actor, Walter Perez, who played Leaper X. Dollar.
Right.
Who played...
Because all I could think was, why am I hearing Perez over and over again? Is that some sort of a connection as well? But no, it must have been named after the actor. All right.
My first viewing, when they call him Perez, I'm like, did Ben leap into Leaper X? And then I was like, no, wait, Walter Perez is the actor who plays Leaper X, who plays Martinez. So, but I'm sure they just liked the name and wanted a little bit of an Easter egg in there. But I was confused for half a second. I was like, that would be so cool because they leapt together at the end, fighting, and then there was, of course, the end scene in the Old West. Yeah. But could they be linked somehow? And maybe he did leap into Perez in the military in the past. I was a little confused.
Actually, something really funny happened on some of the Facebook groups. I don't know how this started, but someone posted something about Leaper X and the fact that they were pissed off that they're never going to see this character again. And I'm pretty sure it was me who posted something like, it's a time travel show. There's no reason to believe we're not ever going to see them again. And I don't know how this happened, but everyone like in that group just kept posting and copying and pasting my post over and over again on this thread. It went on for days. I don't know why, and I don't know how it happened, but it was so funny. I'll have to see if I can find it. It was something along the lines of, it's a time travel show, and it's true. It is a time travel show. There's no reason to believe that somewhere down the track, Ben does a leap and he ends up in a place that Leaper X happened to be at. They could meet some other way, and maybe then Ben has to come up with some sort of a way to finish his mission while at the same time not affecting Leaper X's. Because if he stops Leaper X then and there, then none of the other stuff that happened afterwards still can happen. So yeah, bringing in some time travel quandaries there. I think everyone's eyes are exploding by now.
When we spoke to Leaper X, Walter Perez, he mentioned that there was no further plans for him at the moment, but there was the general conversation and understanding it's science fiction, so no one's really dead in science fiction. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back, hopefully like a recurring character at least once a season. That would be great, because he was just so good in that character, and it adds so much mystery and action. So it was really good.
Do you remember there was an episode in season 1 as well where Ian had found some documents that had been hidden, which was all about the evil leapers that Sam encountered? It's funny, I messaged Carolyn Seymour, who played Zoe, afterwards, and I said, you got a name drop in the new Quantum Leap. Maybe that'll mean we might see Zoe back sometime soon. She's like, oh, I hope so.
That would be great.
It would be great.
I would like to see that.
Yeah. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see Zoe and Thames somewhere down the track.
When the Evil Leaper mention came up, I did instantly message her and talk to her about it, and she said, I know nothing about it, because I was hoping she would be coming back, because that would be great. But she's like, not yet, but I would. But look, so hopefully.
Yeah. So we know Carolyn Seymour would be in a heartbeat. I think, what was his name? Can't remember.
Henton
the guy
Battle.
who played Tim's. Henton, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been interested in talking to us as well, and seems pretty keen to reprise his role at some point too, if ever the opportunity arose. And I mean, let's face it, we're now in the time period around about that the Evil Leaping project was supposed to be from, the 2020s. Mm-hmm. So I think it would make sense. It's not that difficult to de-age people now with makeup and with like all the face switching technologies and everything. We could easily have them reprise their roles, and then we could easily have them reprise their roles and just have Ziggy, or Lothos, whoever's being used, de-age them. It would actually be kind of cool too, because I still think that it's somehow linked to Sam's project and quite possibly Ben's project as well, the Evil Leaping project. So I would be very keen to see how, they fit together, and, how things have gotten corrupted so badly. And like we've been seeing, there's this overarching theme that the government just can't be trusted. So I think it could be, some some military exercise that goes wrong, perhaps, trying to get their own project going.
If we never get an episode where they leap back into the old project somehow, I'm going to be so disappointed.
Yeah. And how often did we hear the word Sam in this episode, by the way?
It seemed like several.
Yeah.
And they mentioned that he's married. So that that was something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not only that too, but just the acronym for the missiles, SAM. They kept calling them SAM.
Oh yeah.
I didn't notice that. Yeah, you're right.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Sam.
They name drops. They did name drop Sam quite a bit in this episode. So it seems to me that they obviously want him for something, but it comes down to, I think, being worthwhile for Scott Bakula, which is perfectly fair in my opinion. Like as I'm sure you've revealed to everyone, you have read the original pilot script, and that it was supposed to be Sam who was helping Janice to get Ben to leap originally, but it was only going to be like a very short cameo, and he wouldn't even have any lines. It would just be kind of like, a vision of him as the episode ends. And I mean, yeah, if I'd spent 5 years as the main character on a TV show that they're not rebooting, what's the word I'm looking for, that they're continuing, I'd probably want to have some sort of a more substantial role in it than just a 1 second, bit of video where I don't even have anything to say. So, yeah, make the role interesting for Scott, and, make it a viable option for him, and he'll probably come back. Just hint anyone in in the business.
Speaking of
Hello.
Scott, did you notice Aaron Abrams, the guy who played Ronnie, looked a hell of a lot like Scott Bakula. Like if you saw him in the background walking through the headquarters, you would go, "Is that Sam?" To me, it looked a lot like Scott Bakula. And the guy who played Enoch, PJ Byrne, he looked a lot like Willie Garson. So to me, a couple of those
I
shots,
thought it was Willie Garson as well.
right? A couple of those shots
And I'm like,
look
that
like
can't be
Played
Willie
Against
Garson.
Seymour.
He's dead.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it couldn't be him. But like if they wanted to do Played Against Seymour again, they could just use those two actors.
Yeah,
They were really
or Lee
close.
Harvey Oswald.
Now, if you look at IMDb, they both have the same last name, the characters. So
Okay.
are they supposed to be brothers? Because
They're brothers.
I watched
Yeah,
it
they're
4
brothers.
times, and that never came to me.
She says it. Greer says something about them being brothers, or
Okay.
the Abrams family, or something like that. So they got
Abrams
to be
family
brothers.
line would end, but I didn't know that they were both Abrams. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the characters. I already spoke about why Greer's character bumped me because of her, brainwashing into thinking that she wasn't important, basically. But I really enjoyed all these characters. She was the only actress that all the actors were in, except for the woman who played Greer. She was in Star Trek Beyond, by the way, but I didn't recognize her. I thought I was a bad Star Trek fan, but she was the one covered in all that rubber looking like a seashell person or something. So that's why I didn't recognize her. But everybody else was on Blind Spot. So it's making me want to go back and watch Blind Spot just because I loved all these actors that were in this episode. What did you think about the interaction between like the two Abrams brothers? I really thought that was a really good like bickering relationship, kind of like
That was
Chalk and
fun.
Bones or something. Yeah,
I believe them as
Chalk and-
brothers.
What did you think about the characters? Like, go through them. Hayden.
There were characters.
All right, Brian.
Well, I liked Greer. I thought she was a pretty solid character. Bailey, kind of more toward the end, you got a little more of him and what was really going on there, and kind of his
Is
personality.
he the one that landed on the landmine?
He was on the landmine, yeah, and lost his partner. And then Enoch and Ronnie, I like them as brothers. I thought they had a good back and forth like brothers would, and arguing both sides. And at the beginning, where Enoch thinks the crate is what he thinks it's like an artifact from the Nazis, and then Ronnie says no, he doesn't believe that, and for a second you think it's going to be something real, but then he says it might be aliens in so many words. So that was kind of funny. So I did like their interactions and everything.
Yeah, I thought it was very clever how they got him off the landmine.
Yeah,
I
actually
really
liked that
enjoyed
scene.
that. Yeah, that was not boring at
Yeah.
all. That was kind of exciting, and I
That was
kind of had
creative.
flashbacks to the Deep Space Nine episode "Move Along Home." So I kind of wanted them to say Alamarine while they were jumping on and off the landmine, which seems dangerous. But I wonder if that would actually work in real life. I don't know anything about landmines other than they're horrible. But would that work, you think?
Fox leaves a lot of them in the backyard.
I am sure Matt's going to look that up and do all kinds of investigations, and we'll read about it in the next book.
Which reminds me,
landmines.
Albie, did you have a go of that maths problem I put up for you?
I gave up halfway through reading it. That's how, I love math, but you're on another level than me.
I saw there were 6 numbers, and I was like, that's 5 too many.
I was like, I'm out.
You're like on South Park. A daughter asks her mother, who's a complete ditz, Mum, what's 6 times 8? Oh, honey, those are 2 entirely different numbers.
Francois
About tree fitting.
Arnaud. I can't pronounce Bailey's name, the actor who played it, but it's like Francois Arnaud. I don't know.
Francois Arnaud. Yeah, I don't know.
He was really good.
Francois,
in this
you got that.
Thank you. He was really good in this episode. When the first time I watched the episode through, I thought that his partner might have been the pilot that died because he seemed to take it pretty hard. So that's the feeling I was getting. But then I realized, on repeat viewings that it was bringing back emotions of him losing his partner. But I thought the acting of that whole scene and that whole little story arc was really good, like really good. And I really liked the fact that the rest of the gang, the group, after he, told his truth while he's standing on a landmine, nothing left to lose, that everybody was just cool and didn't say anything. And it's good to know that even back then there were decent people. That's how I felt watching that.
And again, it looks like we're getting, some of the same sort of themes that we saw in the original Quantum Leap coming through in this new incarnation as well, because we had the whole episode about the controversy surrounding gays in the military. So, and I mean,
yeah.
But it brings up the name Tom again. Like Donald Belisario was famous for putting so many Toms in every script he wrote. There was a Tom in every one of them, basically. But it brought up the name Tom again because the person that he was in love with was named Tom. So I every time they say Tom,
I was half expecting him to say Tom Beckett.
Right? Yeah, because it was in the Vietnam
would have been a bit
era.
sad though if he died in the 1970s though. Just to be saved by Sam to only die again a few years later.
That's true. But who knows timelines and stuff like that. Overall, I just think it was a really strong episode. I want to talk a little bit more about the episode overall, but I think we have another interview to go to. And Hayden, we got bills to pay, don't we? We have a new sponsor for season 2. This season's a new sponsor. Now, I had never heard of this product before they approached us, but it seems interesting. It's something that I haven't heard of before. Like we've all heard of, bottled water, distilled water, naturally sparkling water, spring water. But these people have a new product. It's called pool water. On a hot day, the most refreshing thing you could think of is jumping into a pool, right? So what this company has done, Pool Water, I'm not sure, but I think their brand's named Pool Water, and their product is named Pool Water. They've bottled pool water, so it's nice and refreshing. Hayden, can you talk a little bit more about our sponsor this week, Pool Water?
Oh, sure. Well, look, we're heavily endorsed by at the moment because, as you know, chlorine definitely kills COVID-19. So, he's heavily endorsing this product alongside his, it's his, drink of choice. So this is what you want to be drinking, pool water.
Okay. Well, there's, it's not just for those people, it's for anybody. And I think they want me to say their tagline. It's pool water. It's not just sweat. So I'm sure there is some sweat in the pool water. Because a lot of people don't shower before they go swimming. But it's not just sweat. All right.
Well, we know what people do in pools. So
hopefully it's like fresh pool water. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. They're sending us some. They're going to send you some, Hayden, also. So we'll see. We'll try it. So go to quantumleappodcast.com/poolwater. And
mine had ducks floating in it.
Now that doesn't sound appetizing. I don't know. Now I'm a little confused. We'll try it when we get it. So quantumleappodcast.com/poolwater. Follow our link. You'll get the 20% off your first order. I think they come in cases of 48 is your minimum. But I think it's totally worth it because who wouldn't want to drink pool water? Now we have an interview coming up with Bart Johnson. You might remember him from The Friendly Skies. He played the pilot and also one of the hijackers. And it's an interesting interview.
So he was the hijacking pilot. Okay. I was trying to remember which pilot he was.
They both didn't eat the fish,
cool.
I don't think. That was another movie. But he was also from High School Musical, so you might remember that. But it's a really cool interview. Matt and Chris got to talk to him while he was surfing on the beach in California. So it's really cool. So let's go to that Bart Johnson interview now.
Hey, this is Matt and Chris at the Quantum Leap podcast, and today on the show we have been hijacked by none other than Bart Johnson from The Friendly Skies. Co-pilot Kirk, the friendly co-pilot who turns out to be the hijacker. Bart, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
We really want to talk about your experiences about Friendly Skies, obviously, and all the fun you had on Quantum Leap. But could you first fill us in a little bit about your past, how you got into the business, and maybe tell us about some of the other things you've been doing before Quantum Leap?
Oh gosh, okay, that might be a long conversation. There's a helicopter.
You could just tell us about High School Musical if you want, because
okay, I know the right answer. Let me see if I can get to it quickly. There's a helicopter coming by. I'm gonna have to, speaking of Friendly Skies, I'm just gonna let this thing pass by so I don't mess up my audio.
So while we wait for that, I'm going to describe to the audio listeners out there that Bart might be the coolest interview we've ever had. Matt and I are sat in our offices in front of our microphones. Bart is, I don't know, jogging on the beach in LA. He's got the surf crashing behind him. The wind is in his hair. I mean, he's the coolest dude I've ever interviewed. Yeah. I'm just gonna say that.
Actually, I went surfing this morning and I was looking at my watch like, I gotta get out of the water. These guys are going to be calling me here anytime. So I was racing to the car and with my jug of water, taking the sand off me. So, but I'm glad I made it. Glad to be here, guys. The surf wasn't that great anyway. You can see it's kind of small today. So,
Chris and I regularly surf ourselves, so we know what good and bad waves are for surf.
It's a great way to start the day. With the water's 55, so it wakes you up and you're going.
That's awesome.
I heard Chris Carter when he was writing X-Files. He surfed every morning. He'd surf in the morning and cleared his head and connect with nature, and then he could write those scripts like a madman, like he does.
Yeah, he knows how to trace the conspiracy. Thanks. It's a bracing morning. All of the ideas start popping in your head, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
The mysterious Mother Nature. Let your mind go crazy. Okay, so to answer your question, my background, my gosh. So, I grew up in the movie business. My mom was a hairstylist. She did hair from Mork and Mindy, Brady Bunch, Charlie's Angels. So I was kind of that kid in the hair trailer growing up. And then I started being on the set of all these movies. And I watched Richard Donner and Joel Silver and these guys making movies. And I was just a little kid. And I watched the magic. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I love this. I love this world. I love everything about it. I want my life to be here in the movies. And it just stuck with me forever until I was in college. And I couldn't take it anymore, and I dropped out and moved to Hollywood and chased the dream. So it's been great. There's a few points in my career, I guess, that are kind of stand out that it's funny as actors. Every once in a while you get a really great job. You're like, oh, finally I've got to a certain level. And then a couple years later, it feels like you're starting over. And that's kind of the life of an actor a lot. And one of those times was I got the phone call from Kenny Ortega, who I knew from Newsies way back a long time ago, the Disney musical Newsies. I knew him from then. And he's always been a big supporter of my career. He's been really terrific. And he called me one day and said, hey, Bart, listen, I'm doing – he's already done Newsies and Hocus Pocus. He's a big-time director. And he said, look, I'm doing this little Disney Channel movie. It's called High School Musical. We don't have a name for it yet. We're just going to call it High School Musical until we come up with a name. It's a little film. No one's going to see it, but we're going to have a lot of fun. I don't like the people they're giving me for a coach. I want you to play the coach. What do you say? And so that's how that happened. I auditioned for it, and I didn't get the part, actually, because I was too young. He's like, go put gray. I'm going to get you back in there. Go put gray in your hair and act older. And I went back in and screen tested, got the part, and who saw that coming? No one. Nobody knew that was going to turn into such a big thing. So
right.
Yeah, and it's been like the funnest ride ever. It's been so much fun. It was the greatest ride ever. I remember we were shooting High School Musical 1, and we were shooting this. There's a particular song in there called "Stick to the Status Quo," and we were watching the choreography and the dancing, and it's like people doing backflips off the tables, and just it's amazing. I mean, Kenny's directed the opening closing ceremony of the Olympics, with Paul McCartney and 2,000 dancers. I mean, he's done these big, huge, amazing things. So when we're watching this little Disney Channel movie, you're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is amazing. We knew there was something going on. There's something special. Still had no idea that it was going to debut to be the biggest cable movie of television history, 18 million viewers. Out of nowhere. No special advertising or anything. Just out of nowhere, 18 million people watched it and turned into the biggest franchise in cable history and made over $1 billion. It's crazy. It's crazy. And the best part, though, for me, I never shied away from leaning into the fandom, and I love being the coach. I love the part. I should be so lucky to be known as Coach Bolton from this franchise. So I've had the greatest time with the fans. I've leaned into it. I play that character whenever the crowd wants to see it, and made a million friends, and I do TikToks and Instagrams, and I kind of like do some parodies on it and have a great time with it. But that was a good one. That was a good time.
Awesome.
Was that too much? That was too much.
So,
huh? Like, we were slow down these questions.
That was great.
Okay.
I haven't seen the High School Musical films for years, and I'm all psyched up to rewatch them now. So let's talk about Quantum Leap. Set the scene. You're out there surfing. You get the call. I imagine while you're surfing, you get the call saying, "We've got an audition for you." You do a self-tape while you're out there. How did that all happen?
Yeah, that's about right. I got the call. Quantum Leap. For this part of this pilot, I'm really a pilot, so I was like, oh, that's cool, man. I would love to play a pilot. Turns out the showrunner's a pilot too, so we got to like geek out on talking about flying and this kind of stuff. So I get the script and I'm like, okay, yeah, he seems like a nice guy. It's it's kind of maybe a little boring script. And then I got halfway through the script and I was like, oh, hang on a second. Okay, you don't see it coming. The way they played it, I thought it's really great. They don't really kind of hint to anything. They kind of let you think he's just he's just a good guy and dealing with this like older curmudgeon kind of chauvinist kind of 70s older pilot who was great, by the way. He was terrific. And then so it's one of those nice surprises when you're reading the script and you realize, oh, this character's got some stuff to it. There's some texture here. This is gonna be fun. So yeah, sent in a self tape. I taped it in my garage, sent in the tape, and then a few days later they said, "You're in. You got the part." So it was great. It shoots at Universal, which is right down the street from my house, which is really nice. And turns out like the cast is amazing. Like those guys, Ray and Caitlin, they're incredible, beautiful people. And the director was great, and the showrunner was. I mean, it's just like it's one of those jobs where you're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind coming here every day. This is good stuff.
So you're a pilot. Did that help? I'm sure that helped inform like your actions in that cockpit. But I imagine you're not flying, giant 747s from the 70s that have 2 floors and cocktail lounges and disco bars and all that. So I mean. Can you tell me, because it seems so real. We thought that there was like maybe a fuselage or part of a fuselage on a gimbal somewhere, because that's what we've seen in other episodes of Quantum Leap, at least one other episode of Quantum Leap. So if you can just talk about like the set and how all of that like came together and what it was like to be there. Yeah.
Well, it's if I were to walk into a modern day 747, I wouldn't have a clue what to do. Now, the ones in the 70s, they're so good about this kind of stuff, making it authentic and make it appropriate for the era. It's a lot closer to the airplanes I know how to fly. So it was a lot of, not as much technology going on. So it makes a difference. I remember I did now there's a Don Belisario show, and I did a Don Belisario show where I played a helicopter once. And I learned this interesting lesson. They have all these technical advisors on set watching you very carefully because they don't want people at home to be taken out by you doing something silly. So I remember I flew a helicopter in an episode of JAG in a guest spot I did. And I was holding on to the car. Now, I've never flown a helicopter, but I understand it's very small movements, but I was holding on to one of the levers and kind of moving this way and just kind of shaking it this way. And they're like, oh, no, hang on. The Marine guys come in, like, listen, all the Marine pilots, and they said, your hand wouldn't go this way, go this way. You shake this way, not this way. I'm like, oh, geez, man, I'm trying to do a scene here, and like I got to think about this helicopter. My helicopter hits a UFO in an episode of JAG. I got to think about this. Like, okay, spread me a little thin here, but that's how intense they are about wanting to make it authentic and make it real. So I appreciate that going in. So I wanted to go sit in the airplane. I wanted to make sure I'm going over the checklist the way I know that we would as pilots, and having a showrunner that's a pilot is really helpful because we can sit there and tell stories about different accidents in airplanes and how different things happen inside the cockpit in that era. Like it was great. It was really, really helpful that way. And by the way, I took a bunch of video and stuff. I'll have to share it. I wasn't supposed to share it until after the show aired, but the way they built this airplane, they bring in this is a nice thing about a big studio show like this is they can bring in the airplane. So there was 2 sound stages. There was the cockpit area was all one piece in one sound stage, and they had it kind of like in the dark, so they could shoot around it. All these cameras outside the window. So you're imagine you're sitting in the airplane. I'm trying to cast is behind it. The action's happening, and they got the smoke machine going and everything else. But what I'm looking at is like this little tiny window and a bunch of cameras and a bunch of camera guys in the dark, because you're supposed to be flying through the dark in this part of the show, and they're all staring at you through this little tiny window. So it's kind of a cool looking, like a little movie magic moment there. And then they had a whole nother part of the plane where things are happening in the back, where the flight attendants are going up and down the aisle and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole different soundstage. So they had a couple different sets for that. So it was pretty cool. It was really, really cool how they put that all together. I'll have to share that. I'll put that on my Instagram.
Yeah, do it. The fans would love to see.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. So
kids are going surfing. They should be in school right now. Making me jealous.
Going spring break.
Spring break. You're right. Spring break. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And we had spoken to your co-star Davida, who played your secret girlfriend.
Yeah, I love Davida. She's great.
Yeah. So if you want to talk a little bit about working with her, she had especially fond memories of the scene where you guys got smoked out, and we had assumed that was all done in post. But from what I understand, they really did smoke you guys out.
Yeah. Which is so much better. It's so much better. I think it's so much better to have anytime there could be a choice between practical effects and special effects post. The practical effects are so much, for an actor, it makes it feel real. It puts that texture in the air, and you really feel like something's going on, and it really helps. Just like when I'm slamming on the door, it gave me something to hit, which is great, because I don't want to fake hit something, but they need the camera, in the doorway. And I'm like, let us out. I'm trying to get out, and they get something to smack, so I can really try to, yank on something to get out. So when the smoke's coming in and we're supposed to react to that, all those little tiny little things that really sets the stage nicely for actors. So I think it was really good. It motivated. You can look at it, you can see it, you can feel it. The whole like point of acting, you're always trying to not have fake emotions, right? Like the whole goal is to really feel things, and that's like kind of the essence of what you're trying to do in that scene. I really want to be scared. I really want to be worried about it. I see the smoke, and it's like, what does that smoke mean to me? Is that going to kill me? Is that poison? Is that what's happening? I got to get out of here. Like, so it's nice to have that real smoke for like a more genuine reaction. She was great. She was awesome. I like to record these moments. Like I'm such a film geek. Like I just love it so much. Like the process, the culture of being on a set, and just all the different kind of little magical moments of how they make it look so real. And the lighting is so good, and when they're moving lights to make it look like you're traveling, and just all the little pieces fascinate me, and I love it so much, and I like to record it when it's appropriate, but maybe sometimes when it's not appropriate, but so I always have my phone going. DeVito would always look over. He's like, "Oh, he's recording again. He's got his camera going." Yeah, I'm like, well, as long as it's not interrupting any work, like I don't want to do that. But yeah, she was great. We had a great time. I thought she was terrific. She was great. Like that was a great co-star to have to work with. She's awesome.
Well, you just. Yeah, I just want to maybe follow up a little bit. I mean, you had alluded to the fact that you enjoyed working with Ray and Caitlin, and when you're talking about all the pieces of the set moving together and just the way it's kind of a well-oiled machine, can you speak a little bit about the experience of working with Raymond, about working with Caitlin, and did you get to meet anybody else in the ensemble cast?
I only worked with Caitlin and Raymond. So my very first day of work where I was in the makeup trailer, and I was getting my makeup done, and Mason was sitting next to me, and I was talking, and I hadn't met Mason yet, so I was just talking about my work, and I had done a movie with my wife, Robin Lively, and I had said, oh yeah, I did this movie, and and someone said, "Oh, your wife, Robin Lively." And so there's several people in the makeup trailer that had worked with Robin on different shows. Like, wait, Robin, and then Mason said, "Wait, Robin's. I just did a movie with Robin." So they did a movie in where was I think it was in Nashville, but they hit it off and became good friends. So they immediately took a picture and texted to her, like, "You have Robin's photograph." So that was great. That was a nice surprise. Mason was terrific. Didn't get to work with Mason. Caitlin and Raymond, I worked with both of them, and they were so great. They just such great. That's what you hope for. You know, as actors not on a series, someone that's been on a series is regular, had their own show before, and then you come guest star on their show. People are not always full of gratitude and appreciation for what they have. They should be. And it's so nice when you get on a show and you could tell Mason, you could tell Caitlin or Raymond, they're just so happy to be there and grateful for this gift that we all have where we get to be actors on the show and work. I mean, it's so great. But they were, but again, I only worked with Raymond and Caitlin, and they became quick friends. They were quickly my favorites. They're great.
You talked a bit earlier about the fun of being able to work in a real cockpit and in a real plane. I'm interested. You obviously spent your time in a uniform that could be from any era, but you were also surrounded by a lot of 70s makeup and hair and costumes. Can you talk a little bit about the experience of being transported back to the 70s?
It makes a big difference when everything you're looking at is in the 70s, because you want to feel that way, and it's obviously it's some work trying to be. I think for me, it's trying to be genuine to the 70s. So when an older pilot is acting the way he does, which I can't imagine that happening today. If it did, it'd be like, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? But I have to be I have to be 70s about it, where it's like, oh, he's a pig, what do you do? He's the boss. You can do what he wants. So I think there's like some nuance there that is important to be realistic about, but it sure is great playing in an era when everyone is participating in it with costume and wardrobe and hair and makeup and everything. So the period stuff's fun. It's really fun.
Well, maybe since you're a pilot, you can settle a discussion that we had in the wake of watching the episode. I assume you saw the episode the way it ended. And of course, Ben, being Ben, brings the plane down safely, saves the day, because Ian went back and they landed with a simulation. And I was calling bullshit. As a pilot, Matt said, no, he did a simulation. He landed it safely the second time.
I mean,
so he sees that that's within the realm of believability. Badly. So you, as a pilot, finally we can talk to a pilot. They would have died, right? Ben couldn't have landed that plane.
That's pretty tough. Now, I've never flown a big plane. I fly like 4-seater airplanes. So there's tons of runway. There's plenty of, the biggest concern is wrecking your landing gear. That's like a big concern. Is like you want to, in an emergency situation, people are not necessarily worried about you living. They're worried about like, oh, let's do this in a way so you don't destroy the landing gear. So it's like, okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better. So yeah, there is a. I sometimes wonder, would he have killed everybody? Maybe, but probably would have had a really, really hard landing and wrecked that plane at least. Yeah. So that's pretty realistic. And then running off the runway is pretty. That's always my biggest concern. What's on the other side? There's probably homes. There's probably people living there, having a barbecue, and the plane's gonna just run them over. Yeah.
You had to bring that up, Chris.
No, well, it's funny. Now you're talking about the hard landing and destroying the landing gear and running off the runway. And I'm sorry, ever since I knew we were going to talk to you today, the theme to Airplane has been in my head. And I just think of you in the code saying over, under, Roger, Roger, because you had the same uniform on. You're drinking the coffee. People are poisoned. It's. I don't know if the episode was an homage or an inadvertent homage, but it makes me think of Airplane.
I love that movie.
So I know we're talking a lot about Quantum Leap, but are there any other things that are coming up in the future that you're a part of that you want to tell our listeners about?
Yeah, I have a few movies. Well, this goes back to the conversation I was having in the makeup trailer in Quantum Leap. I did 2 movies with my wife this last year, which is really unusual. And then after we did these movies, one's, oh gosh, I'm just going to remember the names of them. That's unusual, guys. I usually don't work enough that I forget the names of what I've done. Like last year, I did a bunch of jobs, which I'm so grateful for. And now I feel terrible that I can't think of the names of them. Oh my gosh, what are the names of?
You're like quantum what? Quantum.
Shoot, I don't remember. It's been a few months now, but I've got a couple. Hey, you know what? Check my social media. I'll keep you updated. Everybody, come on by. Check out my TikToks and my Instagram, and I'll be sure to tell you stuff. But it was.
You got a bunch on IMDb coming up. St. Clair, Someone Like You, What Rhymes with Reason, Company Called Glitch, Prom Night, American Paradise. Oh my, you're everywhere.
Okay, so the ones on so yeah, they're there. Could you do that list again?
Is that St. Clair or St. Clair?
St. Clair. Okay, I did it. Yes, I did this movie, St. Clair. That's with Ryan Phillippe and Bella Thorne, and it was cool. Yeah, it was really cool. Mitzi, this girl Mitzi Prone is the director. She's great director, great director. I think that's going to be good. You never know. You do independent films, and it's like, you do Quantum Leap, and it's like if you watch episode, it's going to be a certain quality. You kind of know what to expect. It's going to be really good television. You do an independent film, and it's just like, I have no idea. It's like rolling the dice, and I go like this, and I go, please be decent, and then half the time they're terrible and embarrassing. And then every once in a while, 1 or 2 or 3, you're like, amazing. And this is one that could be really great. Another film I did, What Rhymes with Reason, was such a terrific experience. The director was so great, the cast was so great. And it's kind of like an 80s homage, sort of a Goonies kind of feeling adventure with some kids in their 20s, but really, really, really nice. This is really nice, and I think it's going to be a good film. Could you tell me that?
I know you got Someone Like You and Company Called Glitch. Someone Like You. Someone Like You is the film I did with my wife, and I heard it's great. I had just heard from somebody that saw the whole film in post, and they said it's a beautiful film. So that was really great. And the funny thing, I did these 2 movies with my wife. Now, we've been together for 25 years, so the fact that we've never really worked together is kind of amazing. She was on a TV series for Amazon called Gordon McGibbon's Life on Normal Street. She did 40 episodes, and I got on there. I did 7 episodes. But our characters, just because you're on the same show doesn't mean you necessarily, talk to each other. So we were on this show, and we did these 2 movies together, which was great. And then we got cast on 911 Lone Star, the Ryan Murphy show with Rob Lowe, and we play an engaged couple. They just got married, by the way. So now a married couple on Lone Star. So that's been really fun. And she is terrific to work with. I love her. She's amazing. She's super talented. She's a way better actor than I am. So it's like, it's just so great to work with her. I'm excited about those ones. Good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to ask, I mean, being in the business and having your wife in the business, it must be somewhat surreal working, but I'm surprised it took 25 years for you guys to do some projects together. And even then, I was going to say, do you prefer working with it? Now, is that going to be a deal breaker? No, you got to get Robin on. Otherwise you don't get me.
Well, to be honest, we kind of avoided working at the same time while we raised our kids. When our kids were young, we got 3, young kids, and it's really hard to work together. And we had some people that tried to get us in their movies, and they'd say, "Hey, listen, we want you to." We're like, "Oh, it's not." It's actually really hard, really, really hard to do a movie together and leave town for a month and be away from the kids. So it's this is new. This is new. Our kids are older now, so they don't really need us to drive them to school and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of, this is new territory. This feels like a chapter 2 of our careers, where we can actually do this and not stress out about being gone. So yeah, definitely looking for more opportunities. Matter of fact, we're working on a couple things. We're developing a couple things series wise that we think would be really fun to do together.
Cool. Yeah, so I have one last question. What groovy beach are you surfing on today? Are you in Santa Monica? Where are you
This
at?
is El Porto. This is one of my favorites. Let me give you a little tour here really quick. So this is the north end of Manhattan Beach. There's a couple different breaks here. It's not big today, but you can see over here. It's nice. It's nice. You can see some guys. Can you see some guys catching waves over here?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So we come here early in the morning, and this was kind of perfect because I thought, oh man, I can finish my surf session, sit out on the rocks, and talk to my friends who are at Quantum Leap. This is the best way to start the day I can imagine.
So, like I said, the coolest guy we've ever interviewed, hands down.
Hey, you guys
So,
come on down. I'll take you surfing. You guys come to LA. I'll take you out.
sounds like a plan. Sounds like that will be a thing to see. You better have your camera out then, sir.
No, oh dear.
Because my antics will go viral. I promise.
Well, Bart, you have been hands down the coolest interviewee we've ever spoken to. And what an amazing location. Thank you for sharing part of LA with us while we could speak to you. Just remains to say again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure. Anytime. Hopefully I'll come back and visit Quantum Leap again, and we can do this.
Yeah, that's it. We'll all three go on a set tour. It'll be great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then we'll go surfing too, of course.
Awesome.
And we're back. How about that? Bart Johnson, the pilot. It's actually fortuitous that our schedules didn't sync up. He was on vacation while the episode came out, so we couldn't really talk to him. So we talked to him later on, but
Good
that
to
worked
see
out.
his plane didn't get hijacked.
Right? Watching this interview, it was interesting. It was after I got back from my first time in California. I went to San Diego Comic-Con. That's a long story. But it is interesting. Now I have a totally different opinion of California than I ever did, not being there now.
Better or worse?
Different. I'll talk more about it in the
Well, we've got some time, Albie. Tell us a
little.
little bit about your experience at Comic-Con, because you were going to be interviewing the Quantum Leap cast, weren't you?
Producers and main cast of Quantum Leap in person. So I got the plane tickets, I got the bed and breakfast, all non-refundable, of course, and then everybody canceled. So I was like, do I just throw that $3,000 away, or do I go to Comic-Con anyway? So I went to Comic-Con anyway.
All right, that's a lot of money. I hope they're paying you to go.
Nobody
They
paid
should
me.
be paying us to do the interviews, don't they?
It's one of those life savings trip to Comic-Con, once in a lifetime bucket list thing, and then you go there and everybody that was supposed to be there ever ghosted you, and you're just hanging out with about 10,000 other people that are like looking for people to talk to or get autographs from, but we're just walking around and all the tables are empty, all the panels are empty. It was pretty disappointing, I have to say. But California was cold. I always thought it was hot like Florida, because people are always on the beach, and you see like people rollerblading in bikinis, and you're like, oh, California. It was just cold. It was weird. I've never been on a cold beach.
Wasn't it summer over there?
Yeah, and it was just cold. But of course, climate change. As soon as I left, they got a hurricane, so it was crazy. But yeah, it's just different, because now I always wondered, because I try to cosplay different people, and when you watch a movie or TV show, everybody's in like 5 layers of clothing, but they're in California, and I always assumed California was as hot and humid as Florida. It's not. So that's why they can wear 5 layers of clothing, and when I wear 2 layers of clothing, I'm dying, so it's interesting. But yeah, my whole experience was, I'd say, disappointment. But I'll talk more about that on the after show for the Quantum Leap experience. That was one thing that was cool while I was there. So what did you think about Bart Johnson?
Oh, great interview. Really cool guy.
Yeah, he seems really cool and like a really good guy, an actor, really good actor. It was interesting hearing him grow up in the business and his mom being like a hairdresser from Mork and Mindy and different things. Just it's cool how everybody's connected like that, and his love for the business.
Did he get to meet Robin Williams?
I'm assuming if he's in the hair trailer, right? If I was doing the interview, I would have just focused on Mork and Mindy for probably 20 minutes. He'd be like, I was 7, I don't know. But yeah, it was pretty cool. But Rennie was really excited for that because she likes High School Musical, the series, or whatever it's called. So she's into that. So she recognized him right away, which I did not because I never watched those.
Yeah. Now, out here in Australia, we don't get any merchandise, but you two are Americans. Have you got anything new for us to have a look at for our Look in Leap?
I do have a little bit of something that kind of goes along with my trip to California. Now, it's not this. This is actually the box, the infamous box that Quantum Leap people sent out, where it had that's like some Doritos in it or something like that, and a candy bar. The press kit.
Sorry, I've got no idea what that is, Albie. You'll have to explain it to those of us who don't live in America.
It was the press kit box that they sent out for the premiere, I think, or something of Quantum Leap, and all it had in it was like snacks. So, and like people were like, normally they come with like a cool jacket or keychain or a koozie or whatever those things are called, but they didn't. They just came with snacks, and it's like, here's some Twizzler. So what I did later on is I bought this on eBay from one of the press people that received this, and of course it was empty because they had eaten the snacks. So what we did was, since we had pictures of the snacks, me and Serenity went to the store and we just bought the same snacks again and refilled it, and then we ate out of it while we watched Quantum Leap. But no, this my actual Look and Leap is if you look really close, hopefully this focuses. Will it focus? There we go.
Oh, it's a little badge or something, is it?
Oh, the pin from...
Yeah, it's the
Comic-Con.
pin from Comic-Con when you went through the Quantum Leap experience and finished the which was, I'm going to give that an 8 out of 5. It was that good. I really felt like I was leaping. Talk more about that in the experience thing. But like there is like 5 or 6 different rooms, and when you're in the final room, you've completed your mission and you've left home. And then Project Quantum Leap gives you a pin. So that's cool. The bad part was I got extra pins because, I was press. We went through as press with the press group. Since I was press and they knew who we were, they gave us extra pins so I could get one for each member of the crew, which was awesome. But I checked my baggage on the way home from San Diego. And then I get home, and then there's this TSA note in my bag that they removed dangerous items. And apparently, these little tiny pins, right, that are, what? I don't know metric, but a couple millimeters thick, maybe. These little tiny pins are very dangerous and cannot go through airplanes. So they took like the 15 or so pins that I had. So I've been, I've been going through and buying them on eBay. I made a mistake, I think, because nobody else was really buying them, and I bought them at $20 a pop, so they stayed at $20 a pop.
Oh, well done.
But I'm collecting them again. So I got the pin. I did have one, luckily, on me. So that one was for Serenity, the actual one that I got. The extra ones were in a separate bag. I did get from the Quantum Leap canteen. There was a themed restaurant. They gave me a menu, and it was rolled nicely. It was rolled nicely when I put it in my bag in a tube. When the TSA got done with it, it was folded up like this.
Oh, wonderful.
Never check your bags. Never check your bags. So the Quantum Leap Cantina, I also got, which was great. They gave me a stack of these, which are coasters. So now I have Quantum Leap coasters.
Very
I don't know
nice.
if anybody else has those. Cool. And it was a pop-up Quantum Leap restaurant. It was basically the same restaurant that was there, but it was rethemed Quantum Leap. Mm-hmm. And they're really nice to me. And I picked up a bunch of shirts. It was called Baja Rick's Cantina. And so it's like a deep cut Quantum Leap thing. So it's actually a Quantum Leap thing, even though it's not. Cool. But that's my look and leap for this episode. Brian, do you have any of those things?
I have nothing. I did not go to that. I am jealous of yours.
Cool. There was nothing like eating in that Quantum Leap Cantina, man. It was great. It was fun. Me and Juan had fun. That afternoon was fun. The rest of it, not so much. But I enjoyed that. I don't know if it was worth the trip, but I enjoyed it. All right, we have a great interview. What? Okay, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, did you see any other non-Quantum Leap related merch, which was really cool?
The floor had everything. I bought so much stuff. Probably one of my favorite things was I went to Fat Man Beyond, one of my favorite shows on YouTube every week, the Kevin Smith, Mark Bernardin YouTube show about pop culture. And I was able to meet Mark Bernardin like 3 times, maybe 4 times over the weekend. I really love him. Went to his screening of Splinter, his short film. And I got to talk to him afterwards. He loved my Picard jacket. And because he worked on Picard, he was a writer, producer on Picard. So the cool part was I got a ton of comic books autographed by comic book artists and comic book writers. Did a lot of interviews with writers of comic books and different people. Like just randomly, I interviewed the guy who did the Deadpool end credits, where there's like Deadpool on unicorns with rainbows and stuff. That was fun. I interviewed pro wrestlers, but I got Mark Bernardin to sign a Masters of the Universe Revelations lunchbox, which was really cool, and a comic book of a couple comic books he wrote. So that was fun. I spent a lot of money on stuff, and I basically had to throw all my clothes away when I came home because all I did is bring home stuff I bought there. So I only kept my Picard jacket and like 2 T-shirts. The rest of it went in the trash. All the clothes I brought to go out there, just so I could bring all that cool stuff home. So it was fun.
Are you a Masters of the Universe fan?
I wasn't. I watched He-Man when I was a kid, and I liked it, but I wasn't until Kevin Smith did it, and then I was like all in because I love Kevin Smith. Got to meet him. I was on his show. I don't know if you watch. It was called Wake and Bake when he was a pothead, but now it's called Smeditations, because he smells lavender oil and he meditates now, which is different than smoking pot and coughing. But I was the first one interviewed for his show.
Interesting thing to get weed. Interesting thing to get high off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge Motu fan. I heard you say that, and I was like, hey.
I'll send you a link. Yeah, so Mark Bernardin, he's one of the writers on the show.
Didn't you send me a video of some of the cool stuff you were looking at, Albie? Maybe you might put a link to it so that you can show everyone all the cool stuff you were looking at.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That video you sent me?
Oh, yeah. I interviewed a lot of toy makers and stuff. I'll send videos. I'll put links down below to all that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right. We have one more interview for this show. Amazingly, this was recorded after our last Quantum Leap podcast, Quantum Leap After Show, and before the writer's strike and actor strike, which is the most important part. This is Dana Melanie, and you might remember her from Ben Interrupted.
Connor?
We're gonna get you out of here.
Behind you?
No, it's okay. He's with us.
Are you sure?
Fairly.
Hello, Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie, and I'm so excited to have with us today Dana Melanie. She played Judith Murphy in Ben Interrupted, the lady that Ben had to rescue from the insane asylum. How you doing, Dana?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm so happy to have you on. So glad to see you. You were great in this episode. Like really, really good. I think the whole episode really hinged on, at least the leap part of the episode hinged on your character. There was that other crazy Leaper X stuff going on, of course, but the main objective was been to get you out of the insane asylum. I watched some of your stuff. I watched your demo reel. That's pretty cool. You got to work with Mariska Hargitay. That's even difficult for me to say.
Yes.
And I saw that short film you did. That was pretty good. Can you tell me how you got started in acting and some of your earlier work before you got to Quantum Leap?
Sure. I've been acting since I was probably 11 or 12. I actually got into it when I was a baby. My mom got me into commercials when I was an infant, and then she was always telling me, don't talk to strangers. So when I was getting older, I was getting confused going into rooms talking to strangers, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And she's like, okay. But when I was 11 and 12, I was like, please let me act. I need to be an actor. I have to do this. And that's when I started writing as well. And she was kind of resistant to it because she knew the industry a little bit. And one day I was at the mall and some woman ran up to us and was like, have you ever wanted to act? I swear. And then I was like, yes. And it was for a background agency. And my first job was the Cat in the Hat. And I was like in heaven. I missed 2 weeks of school. I was on location, and it was the time of my life. And I was just thinking, I need to do this, but I want to be front and center. And so, we got me into classes and trained, and then it just kind of, fell into place.
The Cat in the Hat, the movie?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
My daughter and I watch that often. Which part are you in so we can see you next time?
Okay, so the scene that's like coming into the neighborhood scene where the tracking shot into their main house, if you look on the right side, there's a little girl running up the sidewalk with I think I'm carrying a cart. That's me.
Oh, wow. So cool.
Yeah, but it was so exciting. I remember going to the movie theater and just being so giddy because I was like, I'm in this movie. It was a really sweet experience.
That is awesome. Yeah, we love that movie here. That's cool. Can you tell me how you got? You're in this short film that I watched, and you're the only person in it.
Oh my gosh! Waiting to Die in Bayside, Queens. Yes. How could I forget? My mom wrote that, and I played basically it was kind of based off of her childhood, because I wanted to work with her, and I said, hey, let's write something. And she was always telling me these stories that I thought were hilarious about her childhood growing up in Queens. And that's what we came up with. She wrote it, and I got a friend of mine to direct it. And yes, I played Jordan. Yes, Waiting to Die in Bayside, Queens. She's a hypochondriac who thinks she's dying.
Yeah, that
yes,
was really
thank you
good.
for watching that.
How old were you when you done that? You looked pretty young.
Actually, that was not too long ago. That was only a few years ago. Yeah.
Really? Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very
Without
cool.
makeup and some frizzy hair, I can play pretty young. But
yeah, it was directed really well. The photography was amazing on that, and just the cute little story sucks you in.
Yeah,
your mom did really good on that too.
Yeah, we were very, very proud of it and happy with it, and we had a great team, and we shot it in 2 days, one location. Really, and it was a lot of fun. And then
That's awesome. And you've done other different work. What was your career like between then and getting to Quantum Leap?
It's been busy. I did a series for Netflix, a kids series called Greenhouse Academy that took me to Israel for 3 months, and that was an incredible experience. Yeah, it was amazing. Wow. It was my first time there, and it was a wonderful experience. And then did a lot of indie films in between, and then a lot of guest spots. Like you said, I just did SVU, and I have The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel coming out after Quantum, which is I think May 19th is when my episode comes out. And then working on my writing stuff. It's interesting because Waiting to Die in Bayside, Queens was sort of my mom's tale of her experiences growing up, and we just had a premiere for one that I wrote that was kind of my experience growing up, or sort of after high school and having an existential crisis. So it was kind of like a cool, and she helped me produce that. So it was kind of like they kind of go together, but they're very different. And yeah, that's what I've been focusing on. We're working to making that into a full feature right now. It is a full feature, but we're getting financing for that. So I've been keeping busy.
Awesome. How do you get the role on Quantum Leap?
My mom, who's also my manager, one day was like, hey, here's this audition. I think she's like, it's a really, really cool role. You get to be in a psych ward. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my dream. The crazier, the better. It's my favorite. This is actually the second time NBC has had me being dragged away by orderlies. So yeah, so I just put myself on tape, and it was before the holidays, and I didn't really think much of it. I do love period pieces, and I had just done Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which was also in the 50s or, early 60s, and kind of just forgot about it. And I was in a writing session one day, and my agent was like, hey, here's Quantum Leap. You interested? And I was like, of course I'm interested. Absolutely. It's a classic. I got to do this. And that's how it came about. It was really just, basic actor, audition, and then you get it.
Cool. How soon after you found out you got it, were you like on set filming?
Within days.
Really?
Within days. Oh yeah.
Wow.
I had to cancel. All my plans were canceled for the week. And then, so I had to get COVID tested straight away, because you have to wait 2 days before you actually get to set. And then just, went to wardrobe, which was really fun, for my little, my scrubs. And then also I had one more outfit, which was for my portrait that comes up on the hologram. So they knew who to find. But it was really fun. Yeah, it's very fast. It was fast. It's a quick turnaround, and it was a blast.
Was that portrait done just on one of the days you were filming, and they just pulled you away for a minute, or was it a separate day?
Yep. Yeah. Actually, it was, I actually think I just had that portrait one day, but it was in between filming for everything else. And we had the set still photographer. It was just on the sound stage that we were at, set up the backdrop, and then we snapped some photos. It was really fun being all glam with the hair and with her little pearl. Very different from what you actually got, which was in scrubs, no makeup and, a little disheveled as you would be in a psych ward. Yeah.
How many days did you shoot?
It's a good question. I think 9 days.
Wow. Okay.
Potentially.
Yeah.
It was definitely
so
a
you were there
week,
the whole time,
because
that's where they shoot around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
It was great. It was a complete blast, and the set was really cool because it's a stationary set that's always there, and is this very creepy looking hospital. So it's fun to wander around and snap some pictures and just, get into a creepy vibe.
What kind of work did you have to do to get into this character? Because you're a very happy, bubbly person, and then this woman, this Judith, she had bad things happen to her that landed her there. That probably, as from what I can tell, weren't even her fault. So, and she's dealing with that and being incarcerated wrongly. And so, what do you do to get to that character?
I think for me, I find a lot of my emotion in the writing itself. She has these two really beautiful moments when she's at when she's painting with the flowers, and she goes back into this memory. So I was just mostly just focusing in on what she's saying and letting those words hit me as if that actually happened to me. And then also when she's on the phone with her sister saying that they've just gotten out, it was a little bit cut up because of, pacing and timing and everything. But when I first got them, I think I'm I've been told I'm an empathetic type of person. So just reading things like that has a very big effect on my emotions. And I'm able to just tap into it, as well as doing research of that time and seeing what these women went through who were just wrongfully put in these places for simple emotions and being, destroyed because she had a miscarriage. And so just being really, that sounds a little bit of a cop out, but I also listen to music of the time, and it's a little sadder and before I go to set and everything, but just doing research really. And again, it's in the writing. It was beautifully written, so it wasn't that hard for me to do it.
Being on the set during a period piece, is it like, do you get the sense almost like you're back in time in that era?
Yes, absolutely. I think what really does it is when you're sitting in hair and makeup getting it done, and it puts you in that mood. And like I said in my trailer, I was playing all 50s music just to get me into that zone, because I'm not going to listen to country while I'm about to go do like a 50s thing. So, or rap. And then, yeah, being in the clothes, and there's the scene where I'm reunited with my sister, and there was these beautiful vintage cars, and, you know, the setting, it just makes it all feel so real. It's just like you're a grown up and you're playing, you know, pretend, but the stakes are so much higher because, you know, you have all these real things to allow you to really feel it and be in that moment.
Part of the episode was kind of like an adventure with you and Ray's character, like running around trying to, sneak through things and escape and do different things, and you making a phone call. Can you talk a little bit about the adventure part of the filming?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It was just basically us being frantic and running back. I think my favorite part is when we're both being pulled away, and the shots of us each, you know, coming into us when we're being dragged away by the orderlies. I think that was my favorite thing to shoot. And then it just heightens it, and it makes it more exciting because you're not just, you know, sitting having a conversation. It's kind of like being on a ride at Disneyland, especially in those caves. You know, you feel like Indiana Jones moment type of thing. And then climbing up that ladder was crazy. At first I thought we were going to be harnessed in, but we weren't harnessed in because it just we couldn't hide it with our outfits. So literally climbing up, and then I was too afraid to climb down. So they had a lift on the other side, like that I would come down every day. It was kind of like a little bit of an amusement park of sorts, but it definitely adds to the adventure. Yeah, you gotta love it. It makes going to work very exciting.
That's awesome. So it was like an above ground set, but it looked like a below ground sewer. All right. Yeah, absolutely. So it was in a soundstage, and it was probably around the corner from all of the all the psych ward stuff. And it's just this this giant cave, and it's so dark and dingy. And then when they start to put in the smoke for atmosphere, it's the coolest thing. I was like, I really did feel like I was walking, you know, when you walk through the lines at Disneyland and they make it the vibe of the ride you're about to go on. That's what it felt like. It was so cool. It was above ground though. Yeah. Very cool. But it's all there for you and for Ray and Walter. Very cool.
Yeah, they were so wonderful too. Such a great cast.
Yeah, what was it like working with the whole crew?
One of my favorite experiences by far. Everybody was so sweet and so welcoming and so down to earth. And it's a very ambitious show. I mean, every episode is a completely different time period. And the fact that they're all so calm and welcoming and just happy to be there and work, it was really, really special. And I felt very welcomed, and I'm really fortunate for that.
I have a couple questions about the episode. Other questions. Like in the group scenes when, say, I think it was like a cafeteria or a waiting area when everybody's sitting around and you're trying to act like you're comatose, but you're also acting like you're not comatose, acting like you're comatose or something like that. Catatonic. What was that whole thing like that day?
I really wasn't sure what to, you don't know like how it's going to be read on camera. So you kind of just have to go for it. So I just did what I thought. And then Jude, our director, she's great. She would give me some little tweaks. She's like, okay, maybe just like tilt your head down and like slack your jaw a little bit for this next take. Because, it's just kind of like you're going to feel a little silly, which is fine. I mean, that's what acting is really. The sillier you feel, the better it's going to look. So just like the communication of being told, hey, this will look better if you do it this way, or, and just, completely zoning out. It's hard to zone out when someone's talking to you because you just want to engage with them. But yeah, just like I just was focusing on something over there while, being in that state of not wanting to get caught and not wanting to, need anyone to believe that I was actually in on this little deal that he and my sister had made together.
And did you have to kind of do that again when Addison was there, when Caitlin was around and you're not supposed to see her?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was honestly, that was way harder because in the scene, especially in the tunnel, we're like looking around and then I kept finding myself like looking at her. Thankfully the camera was behind me, but every time I would turn around to like look down the tunnel to see if anybody was coming, my eyes just went to her. It was so hard to not look at her because you're like, she's not there. So yeah, I feel like actually that was probably the hardest part.
It can't be easy.
Yeah, it's funny. It was really funny. I kept thinking to myself, Dana, what are you doing? She's not there. Stop looking at her. We know this.
Did she say, "Don't look at me"? She's probably
no, literally nobody noticed. I was like, thank God. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. The library, was that a set too, or was that a library? There was a lot of books there.
Oh my God, it was so beautiful. It was a set. I remember when I saw it for the first time, a few minutes, I like to wander sets because, otherwise you're just sitting, waiting, and that's not fun. So I like to just, mosey around when I'm allowed to. And I saw it and it was so beautiful. They did such a great job, but no, it was on the set and they built that. And those books, I don't know where they came from, but they were all real. They weren't fake books. It was tons and tons of books. But stunning. It felt like you were in like Superman's lair or something,
it was
but
huge.
a hero who would stand there and be like, Gotham City. It felt very superhero-esque. So it was stunning set.
That was cool. Yeah, well, that was a beautiful set. I was wondering about that. I was like, do you go to a library or do you bring the library to set? I don't know. That was cool.
Yeah, no, they brought it. They brought it to set. I wonder where they got. I'm sure. They're probably, honestly, just all props that they rented. I'm assuming there's like a prop place strictly for books. But I was definitely tempted to like take a book, but I couldn't find one that I liked. So I didn't. Also,
did you see any books that shouldn't have been there that were from the future of that time, maybe?
Oh, I'm sure there were tons. But honestly, I wasn't even focused on that. I couldn't even tell you what book I was reading when I was talking to her. I can't even remember which one it was. Yeah. Actually, I think it had something to do with like time travel because we thought it was just funny.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That'd be a good Easter egg to check out. I didn't notice either. The day you guys were painting, you and Ray, what was that like? Him throwing paint all around and you guys painting before that, different things.
Oh my gosh, the painting was so funny because it got everywhere, and they only had so many canvases too. So meanwhile, we're just like painting and painting and painting my horrible flowers. It's just funny because I do paint, but like that was not really that's not like my work. It was just one of the writers was saw I had posted a painting that I did. And they're like, "Wait, you can paint? You could have been painting your actual things." And I was like, "Yeah." But I just figured it was just better for continuity to like not do that. But oh yeah, when he goes in on the painting to cause a distraction and to get us kicked out. One of the takes, I just started laughing because he was just doing like this hip thrusting, and it was so funny. Another take, I had one of my close-ups, and I touched my face right as I called action, and I got blue paint on my face, and I was like, "Whoa!" And like they kept going, and I was like, "Wait, I'm sorry, there's paint on my face." And then everybody they all have tablets with watching the what we're doing, and they had taken a bunch of screenshots of the exact moment that I'm like, "Whoa, there's paint on my face." So we had to pause and reset, and try not to get it everywhere. But it was fun. That's another beautiful set because it just reminded me of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, there's a lot of that feeling in this episode, I think, on purpose.
Definitely.
But it worked out really good for the episode. That was fun.
Yeah,
Did you get to keep your painting?
No, I didn't, but I did sign it. So whoever got it one day.
I'll have to put an eBay search for that. I don't know.
Yeah. Dana Melanie's
cool.
horribly painted flower picture from Quantum Leap and Interrupted.
Well, a well-acted painting, because if you can paint in real life and your character that couldn't be easy, right?
I'll take that. I'm gonna say yes.
Tell me about watching your episode on television.
It's always so exciting. I watched it with my mom. And it's interesting too, because all my family is on the East Coast, except for my mom and me. We're over in LA. And so they get to see it before I do. All my friends and family get to see it. So I always have my aunt call me after and tell me, I'm like, okay, how was it? What did you think? Did it look okay? Was it believable? So she always gives me, and then I'm always on Twitter looking at the live tweets from people so I can see where it's at in the episode. So that gives me a little bit of calm before watching it, live for our time, because I'm going into it blind. I don't see anything. I have no idea, except for when I do ADR, sometimes I get like little clips. So I did know what certain moments were going to be like, which I was very excited about. But it's always really special. I get really excited still to this day. So it's a cool thing.
That's interesting. What ADR parts did you have? Just to add more clarity to the episode, like they wrote in some extra lines or something?
It was more so my phone call with my sister. They just wanted my voice to be a little bit lower. So I just had to whisper my lines more, because apparently I was, being very loud on the phone.
Very cool. You did well, because I didn't notice. A lot of times I notice ADR, but I didn't notice that part. That's very good.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. And I think that was the main one. There might have been like one line added somewhere else, but for the most part, it was the major thing was to just whisper.
And how shortly before air were you doing the ADR?
That was, I think, a week or 2 weeks before.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. That's when it was. It was the day after I came back from Mammoth from the film festival, but I can't remember when that was. Everything's a blur. Time. It is time, which is so funny.
It's an illusion. Yep.
Yeah.
Was the finished episode you watched on television, was that anything different than you shot? Like, were there things you shot that didn't make air?
Everything aired, but it was the two things that I just noticed were the painting scene. I think they just shortened it a little bit, like my little talk about my husband, and then the phone call. The phone call was definitely shortened, which I was a little bummed about, but it makes sense. I mean, there's so much in that episode that needed to be addressed and put together. So, but those were the only two. Everything else made it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we got to talk to a lot of different people that worked on Ben Interrupted. So it's interesting to hear from all the different perspectives. We heard there was like dancing on the set and everybody was joking around and having fun. Do you have any fun stories from filming?
Let me see. I mean, I think it was really just like the whole paint scene. That was really funny. And then there was a little, I think they posted it on social media with Ray and Walter doing their little like stabbing each other in the throat thing, their little, so that was really fun. I just think like the whole experience, there were just always just these organic moments of fun and laughter, especially given the circumstance that we're in a psych ward and, people are getting stabbed in the neck and injected and lobotomized. And there was a lot of physicalness too. So it was, it was fun. It was definitely fun, but nothing like those are the two things that just stick out to me off the top of my head. Good question. I'm sure I'll think about something and be like, oh my God, that was so funny.
Did they have a stunts person on set for you? Because I know there was some orderlies dragging you around and stuff. And did the stunt person make the air, or did your shots make the air, or a combination? How did that work?
You mean like, did I have a stunt person?
Yeah.
No, we had stunt coordinators for sure.
Okay.
But it was all of us doing our own stunts, especially honestly climbing up that. You would think that ladder, it's no joke. It's no joke. I think it's easier when a ladder is at least, on an angle, but that one was just straight up and down. And that's a different feeling because I'll climb a ladder any day, but when it's straight up and down, and you have to, and you're going through this hole, and they're like, okay, do you want to climb back down? And you're basically like extending your body over this manhole to go straight back down. I was like, no, I'll take the lift. Sorry, it's going to take a little longer, everybody, but there's no way. But yeah, we did that. We climbed up. It was crazy, but it was so cool. It was exciting.
Yeah, it looks really good in the final episode. So
glad.
What do you think of the episode overall after you watched it? Can you separate the episode from your work on it, kind of?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, totally. I thought it was so exciting. I think it turned out beautifully. Again, they fit so much in, and I think they did it in a really beautifully organic way. And yeah, I'm a fan. I love this kind. I love the show. I just love it all. So definitely, I could take so it's definitely a 2-watch thing. So I watch it once for how I did, and like, you go into this whole little rabbit hole of, oh, I should have done this, or maybe this next time, and then you watch it the second time with more of a clear head and less judgmental and harshness for yourself, and you're able to enjoy the actual full episode. So yeah, I definitely got to do that.
Very cool. And upcoming, you have an episode of The Marvelous Miss Maisel, right?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Everything's a tongue twister for me today. I don't know why. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience on that and what people should expect and where they can watch it?
So yes, it's going to be on Amazon. My episode comes out May 19th, but this is the final season, and it's the second to last episode that I'm in. But the entire season premieres, I believe, this Friday. I'm not sure what day it is today, but so it starts, and it's their last season, and that was an incredible experience. Amazing. The wardrobe, the hair, the crew, the cast was amazing. I can't say anything about my episode. But it's definitely for fans of the show. They're going to absolutely love it because it just brings everything together. They're going to really, really enjoy it. And I'm excited for people. I'm excited to see it. I haven't seen anything. I saw one little piece during ADR again and was like, this is going to be really cool. So it'll be nice. Yeah, I'm excited. That's all I can really say. I know I say that all the time. Like, I'm so excited, but I truly am very stoked for people to see it. And I think everybody's going to really, really enjoy it, especially seeing as that's the last season.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. Anything you're in, you're very good. And you were great in this episode, Been Interrupted. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Dana.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a joy. I'm so lucky. Thank you.
And we're back. How about that, Dana Melanie? I was so excited to speak with her. It was sad that I didn't get to put it in one of the other episodes, but it was great to talk to her. She seemed like a really cool person. So I found out a lot more about Been Interrupted. So thank you.
You're so lucky to be able to interview all these people.
I'm saying it's weird how life works out. It's just like when you're watching an episode of television and knowing, in a couple of weeks I might talk to that person or something. It's pretty cool. Okay, now we're gonna go into a wrap up and ratings. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about this episode? Think about that while I mentioned that. I think a couple things that bumped me about the episode. Not much. I had mentioned Greer's problem, but a little bit of the blocking bothered me, and one of the shots when they're looking over at the truck coming towards them, when the Russians were first approaching the plane for the first time. The truck seemed close enough. If they could see the truck that well, that they would see them that easily. And also in the wide shot, when the 4 of them are hiding on the plane, on top of the plane, while the Russians are looking around, I was trying to imagine how in the world did the Russian soldiers not see them on the top of the plane like that?
Yes.
So those are the couple things that bumped me.
Surely there would have been some, like someone flying
angles
overhead.
Well, even that, I mean, I was like looking at the angles and like they'd have to be like all depressed. Maybe the Russian soldiers were depressed and were just looking down the whole time. But I don't know. But and also, where was Greer hiding when the rest of them were on top of the plane? Thoughts?
Yeah.
I guess we found out that Ben speaks Russian. That's another language that we found out that he speaks.
Right. Well,
and that's one that Sam didn't speak too, because remember in Lee Harvey Oswald, he was very surprised when he started speaking Russian because he didn't actually know it. He just mind merged. Yeah. So
Ben was within earshot of the team when he saw, when they stop at the tripwire and they wander off to kind of look at everything. He's within 20 feet of them, but he's talking out loud to Addison, who isn't there, wondering where she is. I'm like, how did no one else hear that or have further questions? So that was a little say what moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we had Chekhov's landmine in this episode. Yeah. With Chekhov's gun, you don't include something unless it's going to be necessary later on, and the landmine is what ended up that they were able to use to destroy the satellite dish. I thought it was a really cool way they decided to do it as well. Just attach it to the front of the truck and speed into it and then jump out of the truck. Yeah, and I thought it was cool that they changed the missile into a heat-seeking missile, and essentially it was their own missile that ended up blowing it up. So
that was great writing.
The effects on that were good.
Yeah, it looked real. I don't think it was, but it looked real.
It did.
Yeah,
it wasn't real, but yeah, it was good.
Well, the building looked real. The explosion looked real to me. So they're just getting that good, I guess. But plus they had extra time because they started filming this right after season 1 ended. So
yeah,
they had time. Everything was really good. I'm ready to give my final ratings now. We're going to go with Hayden first. 1 out of 5.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to give 2 separate ratings for this. All right.
Okay.
Because like I said, I realized this was a very good episode, but I also didn't like it very much. So for the quality of the episode, I'm going to give it, I'm probably going to give it 4 landmines out of 5. But for my personal preference, I'm only going to give it maybe a 2 bricks out of 5.
Okay. Ryan, final thoughts and rating on a 5 scale.
All right. I'm glad Quantum Leap is back, so that was a big plus. The episode was about halfway for me. You know, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I did like the end, and I'm intrigued by where they're going to go with that. So I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 Ark of the Covenants, which I thought was in that crate. And we'll go with that.
I really love this episode. I don't know if you've got that yet for me. I was excited that Quantum Leap was back, same as you, Brian. And for me, it was just a fast-paced, nonstop action episode with a lot of comedy and really good acting in it. And it was really well written for me. I really enjoyed it. And I'm not like a war kind of guy. I don't like those kind of things. But I just think the character interaction and the setup and that holy ending where we find out it's been 3 years since the team has been in contact with Ben. And everything has changed. What could that everything be? We don't know. We'll find out, hopefully, this season. But for me, on a 5 scale, now I've given over 5 before, but I'm going to give a solid 5 foldable military shovels that don't do well digging in dirt to fill sandbags with dirt. 5 out of 5. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 rating. It was a really strong episode from what I saw. A good opener. And it really gave us that opportunity to see what if Quantum Leap 2022 was more structured like the original Quantum Leap, where it was mainly focused on the Leaper. So it was nice to see that. That being said, I really enjoyed the flashbacks with Ben and people at the headquarters. So it was like a win-win for me because I really got everything I wanted out of an episode. I was a little disappointed because of my own theories I had going into it. That, you know, Addison was a Leaper and maybe she was leapt into Greer and different things. You know, I'm always trying to conspiracy theory the things, and none of those things were included. The one thing that maybe it was missing for me is, I think, 5 people surviving a plane crash with just a couple of cuts on their face seems unrealistic to me. I don't know. One of my biggest fears is flying because I think, you know, once you're in a plane crash, you're pretty much dead, from what I understand from the movie Millennium. But everybody seems fine. So I think in the wrap up, if they would have said, you know, Greer died later on from a subdural hematoma or something, I don't know, that would have made the story more poignant for me or something. But I can't complain about what they didn't get from my imagination, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give it a solid 5 out of 5. And I'm really looking forward to at least 8 or 9 episodes this season from Quantum Leap. Ryan, if people don't know who you are, I don't know if they've been in the Quantum Leap community too long, but there's always new people coming along. Tell our viewers where they can find you and where they can find out more about Al's Place and Quantum Leap and all that stuff.
Yes, Al's Place. It's been around for 23 years now. You can find it at quantumleap-alsplace.com. Have a look.
All right. It's a great website. It's very quantum leapy and very retro, but also modern at the same time. So it's a good resource. So if you want to, you're like, what happened in that one episode or something? That's a great place to go. And it's really good. And
I love the video library. They've got some really cool stuff in there.
All that's on YouTube now too, just about all of it. So you can see it pretty easy. And there's a lot of stuff on there.
Every time I see a Quantum Leap reference, I'll tell Brian and tell him to upload it to the library.
And I will.
That's my jam, man. I love going through those clips and watching those things. A lot of the audio clips from the original Quantum Leap podcast came from your website. Totally ripped them off.
Very cool. That's what they're there for. Anybody can have them and share them and use them. It doesn't bother me a bit. That's what it's there for. That's what I've always done. And people have given it to me too. So it's very shareable, all of that stuff. I hope people like it and continue to go there. I've tried to update it a lot. My entire original series episode guide has been recently updated, reorganized, and there's a lot of video clips in there and TV guide ads and all kinds of things I found over the years. And the new series has its own kind of separate section of the website, and I just updated that in the last week. So there's a lot of new stuff on that, and you can find just tons of stuff. And if you want even more, buy Matt Dale's books. They are amazing.
Yeah, new one coming out soon, right? Pretty soon, getting ready to ship, I think.
Yeah, any day.
More in the works. Well, thanks for joining us. I want to direct you to patreon.com/Quantum Leap Podcast. You can be one of our patrons, get your name in the end credits, maybe a picture. And also, I would like you to like and subscribe to this video, to this channel, to this video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're slowly approaching our goal of 200,000 subscriptions. Right now, we're at about 2,000. So, Hayden, you're good at math. How many more do we need to go to get to 200,000?
How many did you say we had, sorry?
About 2,000 right now.
And we want 200,000?
Yeah, that's our next goal.
Well, it's only 192,000 more to go. Or 100 times.
I think it's 198,000.
Yeah, Brian got it right this time.
But,
But in all fairness, it's tomorrow for Hayden already. So
I'm tired. I'm not usually up this early.
So you can be part of that goal. Make sure you like and subscribe. And really appreciate you joining us on Season 2, Episode 1 of the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap After Show.
And for our listener out there, we'd love feedback too. We never get any, and I'd actually love to talk to people. So if you want to give us some feedback, please do.
Yeah, send your feedback to quantumleappodcast@gmail.com. You can send us audio, you can send us video, or you can just send us an old-fashioned typey type letter. That would be great. Our address is below, and all the links are below. And thanks for joining us. And for the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap After Show, I'm Albie.
I always go last.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Hayden McQueenie from the year 2026. And that's only because I'm in Australia, which is in the future anyway.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.